time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome.
I don't hear anything.
What? Hello, dissidents. I'm here. I hear myself. Welcome, one and all, to a Thursday midday edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, who can hear me now, I guess.
Hello.
Now, there we go. You're a little delayed. Yeah, but the sound to voice is like delayed. It's weird.
Mine is delayed?
Yeah, like half a second.
Huh. Well, I can't go out, man. I got too many exhibits.
Yeah, no, now I think it caught up. I think it was just a lag. I think it caught up now.
Right.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Well. All right. Well, off to a great start today, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate that. Yes. 564
this
in
is
the
the
YouTube
show.
Chat. Yes. And 271 strong over on Rumble. Thanks,
off
everybody.
center. I hate that.
Well, yeah, now you're all askew.
There we go.
That's right. Well, thanks, everybody, for being here today. Appreciate you all. For members, tonight is Film Club night, where we will be doing a presentation.
That's why I wore the shirt. I said I have to wear it today.
That's right. That's right. The Film Club presentation tonight will be on the Decline of Western Civilization, Part 2, which is...
The Metal Years.
The Metal Years. That's right. Who directed that? Penelope Spheris?
Penelope Spheris.
Yeah, I knew it was one of the. Yep. I knew it was one of the women directors. I forget which one. But that'll be at 7:30 tonight. That'll be at 7:30 tonight for members only. So that will be a lot of fun. Always is. We do have an update. Just came across my feed, although it's been out for a while apparently. But apparently Chris Smalls is in the process of being released from the Israeli detention. Apparently, according to Sabby, he just tweeted out they're making Chris Smalls go through Jordan and then Saudi Arabia to get home. They've not treated other activists this way, and black politicians who support Israel are silent as hell. Yeah, that is kind of crazy. But for some reason, I just did not notice that until the countdown. But apparently, he is in the process of being released. Hopefully, by now, he is and on his way back.
Mr. Prime Minister, our internal polling shows our only remaining allies are white supremacists who want Jews to get out of their country and come here.
That's
so
right.
perhaps we should show our racism by treating Chris Smalls different from any other activists we ever captured. They already know about the sterilizing the Ethiopian women, so why not?
That's right. Work that angle. Working that angle there. Hey, speaking of angles, our first segment is about some new Epstein video. Let's see what I did there.
Yeah, no, fortunately, it turns out the whole thing's been cleared up. It was all a mistake. It was just that a McDonald's order came right when he was about to self-delete. And that's it. Nothing to see here, man. Just a couple of cops picking up their apple pie and Big Mac. CBS News investigation of Jeffrey Epstein jail video reveals new discrepancies. In the weeks after Jeffrey Epstein died at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Lower Manhattan in August 2019, then Attorney General William Barr said his personal review of surveillance footage clearly showed that no one entered the area where Epstein was housed, leading him to agree with the conclusion of the medical examiner that Epstein had died by suicide. It's a claim that's been repeated by other top federal officials, including FBI Director Dan Bongino, who said on Fox News's Fox and Friends in May, listen, they showed me pictures of my kids. No, that's not what he said. There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. Now, remember that he said that because you're going to see in this video, clearly that's not true. Clearly that's not true. So anybody who saw Dan Bongino put out his cryptic message about how he's right on the trail of the deep state, just remember he's a liar, he's a grifter, and he's compromised. Clearly, or he would not come out and say something like that. He is compromised. There's no reason to take anything he tells you seriously after that. You're seeing almost daily Gabbard and the rest are trying to pump up Russiagate as a story. Honestly, at this point, I'm ignoring that story the way I ignored it from the other side because I don't trust any of the people talking about it.
Right.
I didn't trust the people who were pumping it up at the time, and I don't trust the people debunking it now. You got to wait a little while because they're so clearly compromised and acting in bad faith. There's no telling what you're going to find out they're telling you now that's not true. You're just going to have to wait a little while. But a CBS News analysis of the video the FBI made public earlier this month reveals that the recording doesn't provide a clear view of the entrance to Epstein's cell block, one of several contradictions between officials' descriptions of the video and the video itself. Now, as some people have commented, you wouldn't expect this from a mainstream outlet like CBS, but reportedly even Alex Jones was saying, God damn it, they stole my act. They did a pretty good job here. CBS News also digitally reconstructed the Special Housing Unit, or SHU, where Epstein was held, using diagrams and descriptions from the 2023 report on Epstein released by the Justice Department Inspector General. The CBS News review found the video does little to provide evidence to support claims that were later made by federal officials. Additionally, CBS News has identified multiple inconsistencies between that report and the video that raise serious questions about the accuracy of witness statements and the thoroughness of the government's investigation. So this is their reconstruction. You can see in red there, that's where Epstein was housed. So you understand the video and we get to it. So this would have been the path to get to his cell. And they show here that the camera didn't cover specifically that area, specifically that, according to what they're claiming anyway. All right, so we're going to watch about 5 minutes of this video, and we'll stop and go as we play through. Why is it not playing?
It is playing. There's just no sound.
Wow, man, this is the day of technical difficulties. Hey, okay. Let me see what happens up here. Yeah, it's very strange. It was playing fine for me before. Dude, do something because this is the whole piece.
Hold on one second.
I don't know if you have super chats to read or what.
Hold on.
Because I'll load it in again or something.
Yeah, just let's load it back in. Why is it not playing the sound? Hold on. Move that one.
Are you playing that now?
Yeah, none of your videos are playing correctly. You might have to load it back in.
Do you think it's because of that sound change before? Because I tested them all before we went on.
Yeah, that could have been it. That's very strange. Here, unload that and load it back in.
Okie doke.
That's the only video in this segment, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell them about the kids, whatever, while I got this.
I mean, I have a few super chats I could read, but just try loading that one back in. I won't have to get sidetracked into that now. If you have that video, hopefully that just plays. But then you're going to have to, during the next segment, you're going to have to unload and reload.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just reload everything while you're doing your segment.
Yeah.
All right, so hopefully that worked. Let's see. Anything?
Nope, there's no sound.
I might literally have to leave the studio and come back.
Yeah, that might be what we have to do. All right, folks, we're going to try and troubleshoot this. All right, so yeah, I guess leave and come back. I guess that's all you could do. The slides will still be here. You'll just have to re-add them. But then the other stuff, yeah, you'll have to load back in while I do mine.
All right, I'll be right back.
All righty. Russ will be right back, folks. All right. We'll take some super chats while we're figuring that out. Sorry about that, folks. Just kind of a crazy fluke thing. Killer Hittin says, it's all about football, dirtbags. It's definitely not about Blackstone, and Tamura is not a Luigi, so don't get any ideas about righteous vigilance. Sorry about the dirtbags thing. Yeah, it seemed like that was all football. I mean, it does seem like that was football related. ABC, always be cucking. Here's your set of steak knives, Bernie. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Yes. All right. Karthik, thanks for the $20 super sticker. Appreciate that very much, my friend. All right, let's give this a whirl. Let's see what we have here. So you got to put back the slideshow should be loaded in.
Yeah, I just put that back in.
You just toss that right back on.
All right, so let's try this again.
The Federal Bureau
Yep, that was it. Whatever happened with my headphones fucked everything up.
Yeah, now it's working.
All right, let me cue to the right place. So I'll just cue to there, and you'll just cut to
the primary video used in the investigation to Epstein's cell. The footage begins at 7:40 p.m. the night before Epstein's death. You can see staff and inmates moving about, preparing for the nightly lockdown. That's the officer's station in the background. Only 2 employees have been publicly identified. Tova Noel, a corrections officer pulling a double shift that began at 4 p.m., and Michael Thomas, a materials handler who won't arrive until midnight. Epstein is seen for the first and only time on camera at 7:49 p.m. when the Department of Justice said he was escorted to his cell from another wing of the unit. It's important to note here, you don't actually see Epstein ascend the stairwell to his cell block. Remember what Dan Bongino said.
There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
Let's zoom in and play that again in slow motion. Here's the sliver of stairs.
All right, so right there, Dan Bongino lied very earnestly. Does he seem like he's lying? So remember that next time Dan Bongino tells you that he's absolutely sure about something. He's a liar. Why he's lying, we don't know. We don't know what they might have on him, what they might threaten him with, or maybe he's just a dirtbag. But he's clearly is prepared to lie to the public about this case and other things.
Epstein is here with his escort, and they walk off screen. When the FBI released the video, they said anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located from the common area would have been captured by this footage. But with the primary entrance here, the pathway from the entrance to the stairs is completely out of view of the camera. For the next hour or so, corrections officers and inmates are seen moving about, preparing for all prisoners to be locked down.
Pause
At 8:21, another...
I just have to pause. This whole thing is such an obvious screw job, okay? Because you talk about a lie. Okay, I want you to poll 1,000 people who watched any of this footage that they so famously released. How many of those 1,000 people are going to assume that one of these green doors in the foreground is the door into Epstein's cell? I'm going to tell you 995 out of every 1,000 people who watch this are going to assume that what we're actually looking for is entrance and exits out of one of those green doors. If you remember the AI parody videos about the hot seats coming out of the doors, Hillary coming out of the doors, she was walking into one of the green doors. So the way this was presented was that we have a close-up view of the cell door, which we do not. These green doors are not the cell door. The cell door is around the corner there, way in the background, and apparently we're not seeing the full pathway into it. So the whole thing is a giant crock of shit. It's insulting to the intelligence of the American people. Fortunately for them, the American people have very little collective intelligence to insult, so they're going to mostly get away with it, I guess.
Well, we just recently had that journalist who wrote that article. He's been doing interviews, who was held there for months, who described what the setup here is and said what they're saying is impossible. It's impossible. You have multiple cameras normally covering every area. It's a high security facility. There's no way that if they had cameras out like that, it wouldn't be repaired like that. Like, they wouldn't just let it go. This is not your local central booking where they're grabbing people for shoplifting at 7-Eleven.
Right.
Like, the idea that at this high security facility with high priority detainees, they were just, the cameras are busted. Yeah, the repairman.
Yeah, exactly.
He got stuck in traffic. He just said the whole premise is absurd.
Or so, corrections officers and inmates are seen moving about, preparing for all prisoners to be locked down. At 8:21, another inmate is seen being escorted toward the stairs leading to Epstein's cell area. No movement is detected on the stairs again. By 8:24, all of the inmates appear to have been taken to their cells. Noel told the
inmate has been identified as professional hitman McGinty.
Yeah.
Nobody knows how he got that name.
Inspector General, she visited Epstein's cell at about 10 p.m. You can see her head in that direction here, albeit closer to 10:30, but not climb the stairs. The rules require rounds to be made every 30 minutes, but according to the report, this was the only time anyone checked on the inmates that night. There was even a sign printed on orange paper posted on the guard station saying mandatory rounds must be conducted every 30 minutes on Epstein, as per God. This was because of concerns about his risk for suicide. At 10:38 p.m., the report says someone, probably Noel, carries a bundle of bedding or clothing up the stairs. It's a rare instance the video does catch movement on the stairs, but barely. Let's see that zoomed in and in slow motion again. Several of the video forensic experts we spoke with were skeptical about the report's conclusion and thought that the video could be showing an inmate walking up the stairs. Authorities say this was the last time anyone approached his cell block until his body was discovered the next morning. Again, while the video does not contradict that, experts who viewed the video say the limited field of view makes it impossible to definitively conclude that no one used those stairs in that time period. Beyond this, there are other issues our investigation and others have.
Yeah, I'm betting if you sent someone to kill him, they would know to lean against the wall out of sight of the camera.
Yeah.
Which, based on what we're seeing, all you're catching is the extreme left side of the risers. There's a whole stair there that you could be on without being seen.
Uncovered. At 11:21 p.m. and 34 seconds, a cursor appears briefly on screen, indicating the video may have been recorded with a camera or a screen recording and was not an export of the RAW file. The FBI said it had seized the prison's hard drive 5 days after his death and had released the full RAW footage this month. Two experts told CBS News the video.
So again, they're lying to you. They're clearly. Not only are they lying to you, they're lying to you very, very badly. Yeah, nobody's going to ask any questions about the cursor on the screen. They'll just, they'll figure it's just that's how it works.
Yeah, it's not like anybody's suspicions are raised about this whole thing.
Yeah, no one's suspicious. No.
Video's metadata, which tracks how a file is created and changed, shows it's made from 2 clips stitched together in editing software. Those experts also say the video was edited and saved multiple times. Next up, the now famous missing minute. At 11:57 and 35 seconds, an individual appears on screen from the direction of the main door. It's likely this is Michael Thomas arriving for his midnight shift and replacing the other staff member on duty who'd been working from 4 to midnight. Noel was starting a second shift of 8 hours. From that point on, only Noel and Thomas were on duty during the critical window when Epstein is believed to have died. At 11:58 and 58 seconds, the video jumps to midnight, and the aspect ratio of the video changes slightly, another indication it may have been edited. Zooming in and playing back in slow motion, you can see a slight shift in the shape of the figures standing or sitting around the officer's desk, but otherwise, nothing changes. Attorney General Pam Bondi attributed the missing minute to a nightly reset of the security camera system.
There was a minute that was off the counter, and what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999, so every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing, so we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night.
That additional
All right, so there's a good example of what I'm talking about. This is what you must remember. Very often they'll ask, particularly with this crew, what qualifications they have for these jobs. Their qualifications is that they're absolutely shameless liars. She's lying, but look how convincing she is. That's pretty convincing, right? That's like an actress, right? It's very committed to the performance. And we're going to get that footage for you, right? Remember that every time these people speak. Remember what you saw here. They are clearly lying. There's no question about it, but you would never know it if you didn't know it, right? They're pretty good liars. That's what they're good at.
Video has not been released, and a government source is alleged to CBS News the FBI and other agencies are in possession of the full, unedited footage. Why the FBI did not release that is unclear, and the agency offered no comment. Importantly, the Inspector General gives no indication there was a minute missing when their team reviewed the video. We can surmise the male staffer working the 4 to 12 shift would have left during the missing minute based on the report, leaving just Noel and Thomas. But that is not seen on camera. Serious problems with the government's investigation and witness statements don't end there. The report says the unit was secured by 2 doors, one requiring a key held only by Noel and Thomas. Noel told investigators no one could enter without her physically opening that door. But here's where it gets tricky. Let's look at this one example. 4 a.m. Noel remains in full view of the camera, yet seconds later someone walks in, and it appears neither Noel nor Thomas let her in. The report is silent on this apparent contradiction. And even if there was no other key, both Noel and Thomas had ample opportunities to let someone in. At least a half dozen times, one or the other of them exits the camera frame in the direction of the door, all without explanation.
I'm here to see Jeffrey Bernstein. Epstein. Sorry, Epstein. Can you take me to a cell, please? Do me a favor.
Shared this with our forensic experts, who agreed there was no way to conclusively determine from the video whether an unseen visitor was or was not let into the Epstein unit, although both Noel and Thomas have said no one else entered. At 6:22, either Thomas or Noel walk off screen again and reappear carrying food trays, breakfast for the prisoners. At this point, based on the autopsy results, Epstein is believed to already be dead. According to Thomas's account, he arrived at Epstein's cell to deliver his breakfast and found him in a seated position, his buttocks an inch from the ground, held up by a torn sheet tied to the bunk bed in his room. At 6:30, someone rushes in from off camera, according to the report. This was Noel returning to the desk to call for help after Thomas discovered Epstein. Epstein's body was quickly removed from the cell. Only Noel and Thomas witnessed him hanging. At 6:40 a.m., the video ends. Epstein's body is not seen being removed. Both Thomas and Noel have said they played no role in Epstein's death. They were charged with falsifying documents, but those charges were dropped as part of a plea deal. Additional clarification could come from a second camera mentioned in the report. It recorded an elevator bank in the same unit, although the report stated that it did not cover areas that would have included access to Epstein's cell. It would at least show a missing minute.
Okay. All right. So clearly, I mean, obviously this is speculation. It seems pretty obvious based on that evidence. I think you can safely say there is a willful attempt to suppress evidence in this case, that this tape was edited in order to remove something they did not want seen. Why else in a case that is so foundational to the base of this president in particular? Would you mess with this in such an amateurish way, which is just one more example that the people who work for Trump are hired for their capacity to project grievance and to lie shamelessly, but not for any particular skills beyond that? Because how incompetent a cover-up that you would leave the cursor making it clear that this is not, like, nobody took, we take more care to do this.
Right.
Than
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah.
I can't even imagine not reviewing it to be, oh, hang on, we got the cursor in there, we got to do this again.
Right.
I mean, that's just amazing. The fact that the woman, the guard, claimed that no one could walk in there without her letting them in, and then you see somebody walk. So why did she say that? Why would she make that claim? You put all this together, it looks pretty clear that the conspiracy to delete Epstein that people have suspected from day one, I don't know how much more evidence you could get other than direct footage. The fact that they were the only ones who ever saw him, like, they don't have any procedures. You don't mess with a dead body until the investigators get there.
Right.
How could that possibly be that they don't have a rule that you don't touch the crime scene? But they removed the body so quickly nobody else ever saw Epstein in the position they allegedly found him in. It could not be a more obvious cover-up. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, the fact that that's the best angle we have on the door, that's to me is a dead giveaway as well. And I remember when he died, we were all kind of thinking to ourselves, "Oh, this is a Clinton body count type of thing." But now that you think of it, now that you put the timeline together, and now that every time Trump is asked about this, he just sounds more and more guilty. Don't forget, he died when Trump was president, so it's possible the government had him whacked. You know what I mean? Like, that would definitely be the case. There's something that was kind of hidden in plain sight at the time, I guess, because we all just kind of took for granted that Epstein was more connected to the Clintons and sort of that wing of the oligarchy than Trump's. But apparently that's not the case, right? I mean, just look at the way Trump sounds whenever he's asked about this. It gets more and more comical. How he repeated himself. We just did a segment on this, a short segment on the last show. He repeated himself like 4 times per claim. If they had dirt, they would have used it. If they had dirt, they would have used it. If they had dirt, they would have used it. Like,
why don't you look at Larry Summers?
Yeah, exactly. I never been to the island. I never went to the island. I never went to the island.
It was one of my better moments.
Yeah, one of my better moments.
I was invited.
Turning him down. Exactly.
But I didn't go. And every time Maxwell comes up, even unprompted. Pardons. We'll see.
We'll see. Something that we might think about.
Why would he say that? Why would he say that? Look, whatever else you might think about Donald Trump, he knows how to feed red meat to his base.
Right.
He knows how damaging that is. Like, what must she have, or what must he think she has, that he keeps tiptoeing around her every time her name comes up, going back to 2020 when he said he wished her well.
Yes, of course.
And then he had a chance to clean it up. Axios asked him in a one-on-one interview, "I wish everybody well. Her boyfriend died. It's terrible."
Right.
Come on. Stinks to high heaven.
Yeah, it is. It looks pretty bad, and it just keeps looking worse and worse and worse. And, it's kind of surreal that CBS would do a video like that. Like, that's the kind of video you're used to seeing on, like, InfoWars or something like that. But no, that's as mainstream as it gets right there. CBS putting that.
That's what I'm saying. They're cutting into Alex Jones's action there.
Exactly. It's very bizarre.
So we've got a few reactions here. CBS News, to that point, CBS News, yes, that's CBS News, dropped a very good breakdown of the Epstein prison video the FBI claimed was real and unaltered. I'm not an expert, but I have been editing videos for a living for over a decade, and I didn't see anything they pointed out that I disagree with. This video is 100% an op. What the end state of that op is, I have no idea. I have a few. First Church of God isn't even going for it. Jesus willingly died for you, unlike Epstein, who didn't delete himself. Mysterious orange shape connected to Epstein, you say?
Yeah.
The real question here is, in the end, are they going to be able to wear down their base, make them spread their cheeks and take it? Like, are they going to be able to do that? That's clearly what they're trying to. We've got the best trade deals. Oh, Russiagate. Look at Russiagate. A lot of journalists complicit, trying to help them change the narrative to that. We'll see if they're successful, man. From what I'm seeing, and it's very revealing, it's the rank and file, average, self-identified MAGA person who's not going along. The Griftopia, those motherfuckers all want to talk about Russiagate.
Oh, yeah. No, they're trying very, very hard. They're trying very hard, but, they're running out of room. The last Gallup poll that came out had his approval rating at 37%. So, yeah, I mean, it's getting to a point where I won't even say it's down to the true believers. It's down to the marginally informed. I would say, the MAGA base is now not even like the diehard online people. Well, cat turd is like the influencer space, but I think like people who are following this stuff pretty closely have jumped ship. I mean, I think you're down to Trump's base just being, like that small business owner class that just, spends all day, working their HVAC job and doesn't really pay much attention to this, right? I mean, that to me is what the base is, because everybody who's tuned in seems to be seeing what's going on. And then a very small minority of those are actually following every development of the, reverse Russiagate saga. They tried to make a big deal yesterday. Kash Patel found a secret stash. Like, oh, fuck you. Get the fuck out of here.
This is what I'm saying. Like, I'm not even pursuing that shit as a news story. It's exactly the same as the way I reacted when the Democrats would say, we have the smoking gun on Donald Trump. We didn't even really cover that shit on the show because it's like, we don't have access to those files. Could be true, probably isn't. Our overall attitude was one of skepticism, so we just didn't really bother to cover that stuff. We figured eventually the truth would come out. That's how we feel about this. Like, they're so obviously politically motivated. That's what Misty called it, right? Reverse Russiagate.
Reverse Russiagate.
That's exactly how this strikes me. It's exactly the same.
Yep. Exactly the same. No doubt. Okay. Oh, come on.
All right. I got to load the rest of my stuff.
There we go. All right. While you're doing that, I will do the scroll to give you some extra time to load in the rest of your stuff. We'll do the scroll a little early today. All right. So, folks, hey, it's a good day to do the scroll early, because if you would like to become a member, now is a good day to do it, since we will be live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern tonight for Film Club, and emails and invites will go out shortly following the conclusion of this program here. So if you would like to sign up and get access to that this evening, you can do so right now. DoDissidents.com/Patreon, DoDissidents.com/Substack, or DoDissidents.com/Locals. Either one of those gets you access to the same perks, starting at just $5 a month, or $50 for an annual subscription, which gets you 2 months free. It helps tremendously keep this program afloat. We do have Film Club tonight at 7:30. We also did a post game last week. So last Thursday, we did the last couple of segments exclusively for members, and then followed by a call-in Q&A. We also do call-in Q&As every week, every Sunday night after the main show. Those are viewable by everyone, but members have the option to call in and talk to us live on the air. You also get your name up in lights here on the scroll, as well as full access to every live stream ad-free the day after it airs on the main show. So if you miss a show and you want to watch the replay back without the ad interruptions, just like you're watching it live without ad interruptions now, you can get access to that by signing up for, like I said, just $5 a month. You get all those perks. We try to make it as worthwhile as we can, because we rely on membership to do the show. We will be dropping a lot of member-exclusive content as well from the road when we are in St. Louis at the end of August to make our Uhuru documentary. So we will be dropping a lot of member-exclusive content on that trip since our members, as well as our Give, Send, Go donors, made that all happen. And so if you can sign up, you would be amazing. Thank you all very much for your support.
If you sign up, you will be the first to see us try that war crime they call pizza out there.
Yes, that's right. That's right. We are going to try St. Louis pizza live. Not live for the patrons, but we will drop a video for the patrons.
That sounds like the banquet scene in Temple of Doom.
Yeah, right. Mark the Chiara, Salenti is hosting another rally September 27th. Ritter and Judge Knapp to speak and mentioned he's looking for younger speakers if you're interested. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Thank you, Mark. I guess you emailed us. I meant to email you back. I'm sorry about that, but I read your email, and yes, we will be reaching out to them. But thank you. Thank you for emailing us, and thank you for that reminder there, because, yeah, I would be interested for sure. For sure. I had a great time. That's a great event. It's in Kingston. They had a great turnout last year. I covered it and did a little short documentary on it for the show. So, yeah, that should be a lot of fun. Hopefully we can make that happen.
Yeah, we would like to do it if they'll have us.
If they'll have us. That's right. The People's Infinite. Russell, dude, do something. Fucking love you guys. Thank you, People's Infinite. Appreciate that. This program was made possible by by contributions to your DD broadcasting station by viewers like you. Thank you. That's right. Killer Hinton says they should have said they found Muhammad Atta's passport in Epstein's cell. Would have been more believable. Yeah, exactly, right? EO Shush. Fuck it, we'll do it live. I'll reboot the studio and do it live. Thank you, EO Shush. Appreciate that. Eric Rousseau says, do you think that many are more afraid of financial crimes exposed with Epstein files than sex crimes? That is a possibility. I mean, I would say it's probably equal. I don't think it's one or the other, but yeah, that is certainly a strong possibility, I think. Laura Charlotte, did you hear that you have to submit an age verification, selfie, credit card info, or passport verification to watch online porn in UK now? And it's blocking way more content. Yeah, I did not hear that. Did not know that.
I mean, that's terrible. People might have to go out and meet people and actually have real sex with humans.
Yeah. What a pain in the ass that is. All right, so we will move right on along. Thanks everybody for being here today. We're up to 1,600 strong in the YouTube chat, 472 over on Rumble, 424 likes in the YouTube room. Let's smash that like button, everybody, so we can get up over 666 in due time. Okay, there's been a lot of chirping about redistricting in advance of the midterms, doing a sort of mid-decade census in order to redraw some congressional maps, particularly in high-population red states, Texas, of course, being the major focus of this. So Texas House Republicans just unveiled a new congressional map that looks to pick up 5 Republican seats. Texas GOP lawmakers released their first draft of the state's new congressional map Wednesday, proposing revamped district lines that attempt to flip 5 Democratic seats in next year's midterm elections. The new map targets Democratic U.S. House members in the Austin, Dallas, and Houston metro areas and in South Texas. The draft, unveiled by State Representative Todd Hunter from Corpus Christi, will likely change before the final map is approved by both chambers and signed by Governor Greg Abbott. Democrats have said they might try to thwart the process by fleeing the state, which they've already done a couple times. They've tried to deny the Republicans a quorum in the state Senate by fleeing to New Mexico.
But not to the UK, guys. I need my porn.
Yeah, that's right. This unusual mid-decade redistricting comes after a pressure campaign waged by President Donald Trump's political team in the hopes of padding Republicans' narrow majority in the U.S. House. Currently, Republicans hold 25 of Texas's 38 House seats. Trump carried 27 of those districts in 2024, including those won by Democratic U.S. Representatives Henry Cuellar of Laredo and Vicente Gonzalez of McAllen. I don't know much about Vicente Gonzalez, but Henry Cuellar is widely known as, the most right-wing Democrat in the House, so it's not a surprise that Trump won that district on the presidential level. But here is Donald Trump talking about these plans to gain 5 seats due to redistricting in advance of the 2026 midterms.
On Texas, how many more seats do you want the Republicans to draw?
5.
And then what if California, New York, Illinois, and other blue states?
Yeah, well, that's
decide to do
okay
this?
too, but 5. I think we get 5. And there could be some other states. We're going to get another 3 or 4 or 5 in addition. Texas would be the biggest one, and
So
that'll be 5.
are you calling in for a complete redrawing of the congressional map ahead of next year?
Just a very simple redrawing. We pick up 5 seats.
And where
But we have a couple of other states where we'll pick up seats also.
And what if that causes primary?
There you go. So if you're going to lose the election, just redraw the maps. Hey, we'll get 5
That's
seats
all.
in Texas. Hey, there's some other states. We'll pick up 3 here, 4 there, 2 here. There we go. Nothing to worry about. Votes? What votes? Where we're going, we don't need votes. We'll just redraw the map. That's all. Simple
And
as that.
also, if you're thinking of leaving, Spain and Portugal, they're getting very tough on the incoming Americans. They're sick of you. They're sick of you. So you're going to have to stay here with us.
Exactly. Under the proposed new lines, 30 districts would have gone to Trump last year, each by at least 10 percentage points. So that's where they get the +5, because currently Republicans control 25 of 38 districts. So this would give them control of 30, assuming similar voting trends, which of course is not a safe assumption in the midterms. However, what you are essentially doing here is you're peeling off sections of blue districts and dumping them in majority red districts. So essentially you are diluting the Democrat vote, much in the way that, say, if you're a Republican living in Michigan, Donald Trump won Michigan very narrowly. If you move to a blue state like New York, you're essentially nullifying your vote for president, because it was of great consequence in Michigan where it helped Donald Trump get a narrow win, and now you're moving to a blue state that's going to go Democrat. So that is essentially what they're doing, not by moving people, but by moving the lines between the congressional districts. That's the game there. The map was immediately panned as racist and illegal by Democrats, who have been raising the alarm about the prospect of voters of color being diluted. The proposed map splits voters of color in Tarrant County among multiple neighboring Republican districts and changes the shape of the 35th district in Central Texas, which was originally created as a result of a court order to protect the voting rights of people of color. Now, as the reporter asked Donald Trump, what happens if blue state governors decide, you know what, if you're going to do this in Texas, we're going to do the same things in our states. Of course, California, the most populous state in the country, Gavin Newsom has already said, if they go ahead and do this in Texas, we will do the same thing in our state. So Newsom will move to redraw California map if Texas redistricts, teeing up a national fight. California Governor Gavin Newsom has told aides he will move forward with a plan to redraw his state's congressional lines to install more Democrats if Texas Republicans pass their own updated map, according to a person with direct knowledge of Newsom's thinking. So here is some video of Gavin Newsom explaining his plans to counter the Texas redistricting.
Calls in to the Texas legislature along the lines of the phone calls he made saying, find me some votes in Georgia, and says, find me 5 more seats in Texas. They're playing by a different set of rules. They can't win by the traditional game, so they want to change the game. We can act holier than thou. We could sit on the sidelines, talk about the way the world should be. Or we can recognize the existential nature that is this moment. They're not screwing around. We cannot afford to screw around either. We have got to fight fire with fire. And I'll close on that point. What more evidence do you need in the state of California in the last just 6 months? Warrantless raids all across this state. Conditioning, threatening to condition disaster aid on the basis of politics, not on the basis of principles and the needs of people.
Okay, then he kind of goes into stump speech mode, but you get the point there. He also went to TikTok to troll J.D. Vance, who made previous complaints of gerrymandering in California. So Vance says the gerrymander in California is outrageous. Of their 52 congressional districts, 9 of them are Republican. That means 17% of their delegation is Republican when Republicans regularly win 40% of the vote in that state. How can this possibly be allowed? Well, in this case, my assumption would be that since California is a pretty sparsely populated state, absent the major cities, what you have is a decent percentage of Republican voters who live in the LA metro area whose votes do get,
right,
outnumbered by Democrats in those LA metro areas. And Gavin Newsom put out a little troll here.
The biggest pain in the ass that I can be. Every day I wake up and I ask myself, how am I going to be the biggest pain in the ass that I can be?
So he's working on his TikTok game right there a little bit. But you know who loves the idea of gaining these seats in this way is Mike Johnson, who says, that's good news for me. So here's Mike Johnson on Fox News being asked about this.
Much simpler in the first term, less responsibility. Real quick, are you for the redistricting that the president's pushing for in Texas and Ohio? Because in response, the Democrats say, we're going to do it to you in New York and California.
California has a problem. They've got to amend their state constitution, as I understand the law out there, to do it. Look, we have to fight for every inch of ground in the country. We're in an era of small margins, as you said, because of gerrymandering and redistricting, but they have to follow the law. I'm convinced the red states will, and we will probably have a few more seats out of that. And, of course, that's good news for me.
Absolutely. Speaking.
It's good news for me. Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty shameless there, but as we alluded to, Texas is not the only place that is considering this. Obviously, DeSantis says a census redo could be in the works amid state redistricting wars. So Governor Ron DeSantis, maintaining that the last U.S. census was flawed, said Wednesday that the Trump administration was considering whether to approve a new census before the end of the decade, a move that the Republican governor predicted could help Florida gain extra congressional seats. DeSantis said he is already seriously looking at asking the Florida legislature to redraw the state's existing congressional map. Republicans already hold a 20-8 edge over the Democrats. And
Better
then,
not tell J.D. Vance. He's going to get very upset about that.
That's right. That's right. And then, everybody starts brainstorming. Now, hey, what if we try this in Indiana? So Brian Lewis said, should Indiana join Texas and Florida in mid-decade redistricting and pass a 7 Republican to 1 Democrat congressional map? This map would throw Democrat Representative Frank Mervon into a new Trump plus 10 district. These changes would be great for Republican chances at holding the House in 2026. So as it stands right now, the Republicans have 219 seats, which is 1 over the majority. The Democrats have 212 with 4 vacancies. Don't forget, 3 Democrats have died since November of last year. And so, they have to win back 6 seats in order to retake the majority. But, of course, a few of those should be fairly easy since they are vacant because incumbent Democrats kicked the bucket. So you're looking at very, very close margin in the House. And if we are to believe the latest polling, including the most reputable pollster of the last 2 cycles, which had a margin of error of less than 1 point, both in the statewide and the national popular vote, Democrats opening up a pretty significant lead on the generic ballot, which means that a lot of seats are going to be in play, which, yes, informs why the Republicans are now intent on redrawing these maps to pad their lead in certain districts that are specifically gerrymandered to the needs of the moment. In other words, let's take a blue district in the Dallas metro area and let's draw lines right through it so that we splinter off some blue votes into this red district, some blue votes into that red district, some blue votes into the red district south. And that's how you pick up, a few seats at a time. Now you replicate that in Texas, in Florida, and hey, depending on, how dire things get for them between now and the midterms, they can try this wherever they want. Now, the Democrats can retaliate. They have a lot of blue state. I mean, they have a lot of Democratic governors and a lot of largely populated blue states. But this is how you really witness in real time the dismantling of the facade of democracy, right? I mean, you really are just going mask off to the point where we're not even going to pretend that any of this voting stuff matters anymore. If the government pisses off the people and the people want to vote them out, well, we'll just redraw the map so that they can't. And then, you have to ask the question, are there political consequences to that? Do people get so turned off by that they vote against the party responsible just in principle? It's a complicated issue for a lot of people to understand. Most people don't even understand how any of this stuff works. So it's a game that they can play without facing the kinds of consequences that, frankly, they should, because this is just so clearly a power grab to do a census mid-decade in order to redraw maps in your favors going into a tight midterm. But it's something they're going to do, and we'll see if the Democrats do it back.
Okay, so to clarify, they're not claiming they can do this now, but they're saying they'll do a mid-decade census to facilitate doing this ahead of the midterms?
Basically, yes.
How would they fund it? Wouldn't you need to amend federal law? The censuses are done at the federal level.
Well, a lot of this,
and isn't that regulated to happen every 10 years? You have to hire tens of thousands of people across the country to do a census.
I mean, a lot of this has to do with Donald Trump claiming that, the censuses are illegitimate because they count undocumented immigrants. We already saw Stephen Miller talk about redoing the census for that reason. That's what DeSantis was talking about. Now, there's all kinds of politics in Texas that I haven't really followed that closely in terms of Democrats being appointed to certain select committees to try and block this. I mean, I don't know how easy it is to do, but they do seem to feel like, if they just want to go ahead and do this, they can figure out a way to make it happen. Democrats have very little power anywhere on the federal level and in these deep red states like Texas, where they have little to no power in the state houses. Florida is the same way, and those are big population states. And so, like I said, we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. But the wheels are in motion right now. This is now beyond just talk. They've been chirping about doing this, and the question was, will they? Can they? They seem to be on their way to trying to make this happen, and that's because they see these midterms as very high stakes. And if you look at their trend lines on all of these issues, including the most important one, which is Trump's favorability rating just tanking now, under 40 in several of the polls, plan B is just, flip the board.
Sir, the latest polling shows us that we have 7 supporters plus cat turd.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. So that creates a pretty dire situation. And so, like I said, man, I mean, with the Democrats being that far ahead on the generic ballot, they probably take the House anyway. But you could turn what could have been, a 40 seat gain into a 25 to 30 seat gain. I mean, you could certainly chip away at it.
It seems like there's a lot of hurdles they would have to clear. That's why I asked you that. Like before, you can't just do that, or everybody would.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody would. No, it's a radical move to do a mid-decade census,
right?
Yeah,
which you would have to get the funding for it. And I'm not sure about this, but I would imagine you'd have to amend federal law regarding censuses happening every 10 years. You'd have to amend that law.
Yeah, that I'm not sure in terms of legislatively what they would have to do as a prerequisite for this. If the further down the road they go in this direction, the more we'll dig into that. But right now, yes, they have put their foot on the gas. So that is the news as of now. Paul Chu, thanks for the $2. Appreciate that. Kenman says truth is back and to the left. Thank you, Kenman. Appreciate that very much. Eric Rousseau says, thoughts on discovery of Russiagate burn bags at FBI. Yeah, I mentioned that in that story. I saw that. I did see about that. And we did not look into it. I actually considered looking into that for this show. But Russell is boycotting that topic on general principles, so we can't. Yeah, Russ says I refuse to engage it. I mean, I kind of feel the same way.
Listen, man, if we're not going to do a story on Sydney Sweeney's jeans, we're not doing a story on Russiagate burn bags.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Gotta set some boundaries here, right?
Yes. There's got to be a limit.
Got to be a limit. That's right. There's a limit to everything. All right, let's move right on.
All right, this is a subject that you might know has been near and dear to my heart for a very long time. When I was sitting in with Jimmy when I was in LA, I asked him permission to ask Dennis Kucinich one question. And the one question I asked him was if he was elected, if he would order an investigation of Nancy Pelosi or for her arrest for insider trading. He was not crazy about that idea, I will tell you, but I am. I have always thought that Nancy Pelosi should be in prison, along with a lot of other people, both Republicans and Democrats, who clearly are benefiting from insider trading. There's absolutely no other explanation for their stock performance, as we'll see. So Josh Hawley has just cleared the Pelosi Act out of committee. Here he is talking about it.
Have an opportunity here today to do something that the public has wanted us to do for decades, and that is to ban members of Congress from profiting on information that, frankly, only members of Congress have in the buying and selling of stock. 86% of Americans say that members of Congress should not be able to buy and sell shares of stock, individual stock, while they are members of this body, and they are absolutely correct. And the reason is, you can see it, there was just another ethics referral in the House last week. We've seen the former Speaker of the House make millions of dollars in profits. We've seen members of both parties, I'm sad to say, be investigated for their stock trades. And the reason for all of this is that, quite frankly, members of this body are privy to information that the normal person just is not. Now, is that insider trading? It is not under the laws. Sometimes people say, well, we already have insider trading laws. We don't need a stock ban. Well, the information that members of Congress are privy to is technically not covered by the insider trading laws, but nobody really believes that the information that we get isn't valuable. It is quite valuable, which is why back during COVID, you saw members of Congress of both parties engage in a flurry of stock trading right after they were getting COVID briefings. Were members of the public getting those briefings? They were not. Were members of the public privy to the kind of information that was being given to members of Congress? No, they were not. And so when you look at what members of Congress are privy to, what they are able to trade on, the access that they have, it's just qualitatively different than your average Joe or Jane, which is why we ought to put into place common sense guardrails that say, if you want to be a member of Congress, you can put you want to save, great. You can buy mutual funds, you can buy broadly diversified investment vehicles. You should not be able to buy and trade individual stock shares in which, frankly, we have an interest in the work that we do. We have information that no other people get, no other members of the public have. This bill would finally redress that.
Okay, so he's not saying you can't have a 401k if you're in Congress. You can't have a fund for your retirement, but you can't actively trade. Now, also to be clear, now Kucinich, when I asked him this question, didn't get into the minutia of this in that way. But yeah, he's right. This is part of the problem. Not surprisingly, Congress made themselves exempt from these laws, essentially. If you or I did what Nancy Pelosi does, we'd be in jail faster than Martha Stewart can glaze a ham. Okay, but if you're a member of Congress, these laws don't apply to you. They don't apply. So really, Kucinich was right. Like, you couldn't really lock up Nancy Pelosi for this. That's the problem. That's the problem that this act is attempting to address. So it did clear the Senate panel. A Senate committee voted to advance a bill that would ban stock trading by lawmakers, presidents, and vice presidents over objections from most Republicans, and with a carve-out for President Donald Trump. Senator Josh Hawley introduced the original bill barring members of Congress and their spouses from trading stocks. In conjunction with Senator Gary Peters of Michigan, The top Democrat on the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, Hawley, offered an alternative to the panel that would ditch the contentious name and expand the prohibitions to the president and vice president, but only for future administrations. Listen, guys, this is the most corrupt president we've ever had. If you don't want this vetoed, we're going to have to not apply this to him. There's no way he's going to approve that. Several Republicans argued the legislation before the panel was flawed. Senator Ron Johnson said he did not see the need for new legislation given the existing rules around insider trading. He just addressed that. Doesn't apply. That's the problem. And he warned it would have unintended consequences. We might not be able to make $40 million a year on a $200,000 salary. That's a consequence. Senator Rick Scott, meanwhile, we're going to see some of that, accused Hawley of reneging on a promise to work with him to approve the bill. In an apparent attempt to sink the bill among Democrats, Committee Chair Rand Paul argued the legislation should apply to Trump, not just future presidents, and suggested his Democratic colleagues would be voting to protect the incumbent if they supported the revised bill. Paul later called it the exemption for Donald Trump substitute. Now, I want to make it clear, I'm pretty sure the Crackerjack staff at Politico have no love of Rand Paul. I think their interpretation there is probably unfair, knowing Rand Paul. I think he probably really doesn't like the idea that there's a carve-out for Donald Trump and didn't want to vote for that. That's my theory. Democrats ultimately voted to alter the bill to exempt Trump, an apparent concession to appease Hawley and secure its passage. Senator Elisa Slotkin said she would have preferred not to have the exception for Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, but added she was willing to make the good work instead of waiting for the perfect. We all saw Vance and Trump come out against this publicly, but I think it's important that we at least make a start, she said. Now, they did ask Donald Trump about this. Now, this tweet, it's worth reading a little bit of this because this is true. Pelosi has outperformed Warren Buffett for the last 10 years. Her stock portfolio grew by 720%, Buffett's by 185%. Pelosi has outperformed the man who is usually acknowledged as the greatest investor of his generation by 4 times over the last 10 years. The best year Buffett ever had was around 36% gain. Pelosi last year had, I think, a 54% gain. So Trump was asked about this. This is what he had to say at first.
Conceptually, and, Nancy Pelosi became rich by having inside information. She made a fortune with her husband, and I think that's disgraceful. So in that sense, I'd like it, but I'd have to really see I study these things very carefully, and this just happened. So I'll take a look at it. But conceptually, I like it. And what I do think is Nancy Pelosi should be investigated because she has the highest return of anybody practically in the history of Wall Street, save a few. How did that happen? It happened by she knows exactly what's going to happen, what's going to be announced. She buys stock, and then the stock goes up after the announcement's made. And she ought to be investigated.
This is the thing, though. If you're going to investigate Nancy Pelosi on those grounds, you have to investigate most of Congress, as we will see. She's the queen of stonks. And if you analyze why she outperforms everybody else and continues to, she's not Speaker of the House anymore. I don't think it's that she's getting better information than the rest of these inside trading Congress people. She's married to an investor. She's married to a trader. So he's taking this information, in my opinion, and he's getting into these very exotic trades that the average congressperson wouldn't even know about. He's getting into call options. He's hedging. He's buying these very exotic kind of investments to maximize profit off of this information. I think that's why she's the queen of stonks, but she's certainly not the only one doing this. So she got asked about this by Jake Tapper.
Let me just read what he said. I'm sorry that we had some sort of technical issue. Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
Yeah, but I
wanted what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the stop the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they go to jail.
Yeah,
but because
that happens
of
every day.
Confidence it instills in the American people, don't worry about this. But I have no concern about the obvious investments that had been made over time. I'm not into it. My husband is, but it isn't anything to do with anything insider. But the president has his own exposure, so he's always projecting. He's always projecting. And let's not give him any more time on that, please. We're going forward here, and I'm very proud of my family. And while he might make fun of us, while somebody inspired by him breaks into our home and hits my husband in a deadly fashion, hits my husband over the head, and he thinks that's a riot, I'd rather not go into some of my other complaints about him right now. Rather to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. That's what this is like her Epstein.
It's like her Epstein. Yeah, exactly. Insider, no, not me. I don't do it. No, I mean, I'm all for the bill, but because I don't do it. I mean, we make money, but my husband does it, not me. I'm all for it. Yeah, no, if you do it, you should go to jail. Not me.
Yeah, no, you see that all the time. People who do inside trading in Congress who go to jail. That happens every day.
Yeah.
The laws are working perfectly. Yeah. For Nancy Pelosi, and this is, we've long said this is how her racket works. She gives the information to her trader husband, and he does the trades based on that information. That's my husband, not me. Well, clearly your husband is doing these trades based on inside information. Last year, Pelosi outperformed the famous inverse Cramer. What's the inverse Cramer for the uninitiated? Jim Cramer sucks so bad. There's an ETF you can invest in that trades the opposite of his advice. Did 43% last year betting against Jim
does very
Cramer's
well.
picks.
But not as good as her.
Not as good as the Queen of Stonks. 54% last year. No insider trading here. Of course not. While hedge funds often prioritize consistent returns and risk management over sheer market performance, their 2024 results pale compared to Pelosi's tracker. They averaged a 10.7% return. 10.7. Only one outperformed her, 59.4, not by much. Outperformed all these professional money management firms. And if you look from 2014 to the present, 631% gain, while the market gained 180% in that time. So you have to believe that Nancy Pelosi is the Rain Man of stock picking, or you have to believe that she's trading. I can't say illegally. That's what this act is trying to correct. This is inside trading. It would be illegal. What she does would be illegal for anyone who's not in Congress. And when she says she's not trading on inside information, just absolutely absurd claim to make. Now, under a lot of pressure, she theoretically supports this. Very often when it becomes politically uncomfortable enough, people will claim to support things that they then help to kill through procedural maneuvers while claiming to support it. But this is what she said for a very long time when asked about closing this loophole for Congress people to do insider trading.
Members of Congress and their spouses be banned from trading individual stocks while serving in Congress?
No, I don't know to this second one. We have a responsibility to report in the stock, on the stock, but I'm not familiar with that 5-month review, but if people aren't reporting, they should be.
Why should they be bigger?
Because this is a free market and people we're a free market economy. They should be able to participate in that.
Oh, oh boy, she's participating. All right. So the blue line on top there is Nancy Pelosi's stock performance between 2019 and the end of 2023. And the gray line below it is the performance of the market on the whole. I bet you can spot the difference. Over 50% gains in that time. Now, as I said, it's not just Nancy Pelosi. The green line here is Congress. Congress did over 20% in 12 months. Some of the Congress people involved you might recognize. So it's not just Nancy Pelosi. She's at the top. That's why they call her the Queen of Stonks. 24.1 million. Next biggest inside trader, and I think we can safely say that, Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney, 17.4. And then the next one's a Democrat, Mark Warner, 11.4. Rick Scott, though, he's no slouch. 8 million. Mitch McConnell, who doesn't even seem to know where he is. This is how easy it is if you're in Congress to make a fortune in the stock market. $6 million. So as you can see from the mix of red and blue here, this is a bipartisan sport. This is certainly not specific to Pelosi. She's just the most successful at it again, I think, because she's married to a big trader and investor. So among those who voted against it, unsurprisingly, against the Pelosi Act, is Rick Scott. This is what Rick Scott had to say. God damn it, it's un-American. It's un-American.
I don't own operating businesses. But somehow it's suspect because I made money. I don't know how many people in the audience, how many of you don't want to make money? Anybody want to be poor?
Anybody want to be poor? I don't want to be poor.
Right? So this idea that we're going to attack people because they make money is wrong.
What do you make, 170 grand a year?
Absolutely wrong.
We should, well, when people rob banks, they're doing that to make money. Should
Hey,
we
what am I
stop
doing?
them from robbing the bank?
You want me to be poor?
You want them to be poor? And a lot of those people, they start out poor. That's what in America we used to call true grit. Now we call it bank robbing.
Yeah, exactly.
We cherish all of our different backgrounds. Every one of us has a different background. I've got a business background. But what I was just accused of is making money, and somehow I can't be fair and do things the right way. So I think it's disgusting what is going on here. So, but I agree with I completely agree with you. We've got to stop people from trading stocks. But this is way different. This is an attack against the president, attack against the vice president. That's what this is. So I think it's wrong.
Wow. And it's got a carve out for Trump at JD Vance.
Yeah, it's not an attack on the president.
Yeah, no, that is just amazing. You're criminalizing making money. Yeah. So how did you outperform the market last year? You were not inside trading, Rick Scott.
Right.
How did you do that? By orders of magnitude, outperform the market. A market that's doing very well, by the way, and you did much better than that even. So somebody must have told Donald Trump that this would affect his rich criminal friends or something. Because a few hours after making that statement about how much he liked the idea of the bill, all of a sudden he blindsides Josh Hawley with this. Why would one Republican Senator, Josh Hawley, from the great state of Missouri, join with all of the Democrats to block a review sponsored by Senator Rick Scott and with the support of almost all other Republicans of Nancy Pelosi's stock trading over the last 25 years? The information was very inappropriately released just minutes before the vote, very much like sabotage. The Democrats, because of our tremendous achievements and success, have been trying to target me for a long period of time, and they're using Josh Hawley, who I got elected twice, as a pawn to help them. I wonder why Hawley would pass a bill that Nancy Pelosi is in absolute love with. He is playing right into the dirty hands of the Democrats. It's a great bill for her and her husband, but so bad for our country. Are you suggesting he's not
He's
her
not
husband?
her husband? Yeah. Her so-called husband.
I understand they got married to one of those Elvis chapels. I don't even know if that's legal. I don't think real Republicans want to see their president, who has had unprecedented success, targeted because of the whims of a second-tier senator named Josh Hawley. So I don't know, man. He got a call from some of his rich friends or something telling him ixnay on the anti-corruption nay. And why would Donald Trump's friends not want him to support a bill like this? Well, you might remember after Victory Day or Liberation Day or Independence Day, whatever the hell they called it, when he announced his batshit tariff list. About a week after that, he completely shifts gears, and people made a lot of money off of that stock swing, including Charles Schwab, whose company you've probably heard of. Here Trump is, he's very excited about how much money they made on his reversal.
This is Charles Schwab. It's not just a company, it's actually an individual. And he made $2.5 billion today, and he made $900 million. That's not bad. He's in financials. I've always been following.
He's very happy about how much money these guys made, probably from inside information about the fact that Trump was suddenly going to reverse himself. There were a lot of buying activity ahead of that announcement. And hey, you might remember the crypto dinner with the Walmart steaks. Trump gave a gold watch to Chinese foreign national Justin Sun, who up until he invested $75 million into Trump's crypto company, the SEC was investigating for fraud. After then pouring $23 million into Trump's meme coin, Sun got VIP access to Trump's dinner last night, where he was gifted the watch. Imagine if Biden did this. Yes, imagine indeed. And, not content to make money off the meme coin, Trump is selling a repackaged $172 Chinese phone for $500, and it's not even made in the USA. So, the idea of Donald Trump demanding that Nancy Pelosi be investigated for corruption, that's really the whoriest whore in the whorehouse, demanding that one of his fellow whores get investigated for overcharging the customers. So Hawley was asked about this, about Donald Trump's sudden and unexpected attack on him. This is what he had to say.
With the president earlier this evening, and he reiterated to me he wants to see a ban on stock trading by people like Nancy Pelosi and members of Congress, which is what we passed today. I think it is absolutely vital we put a stop to this. Pelosi shouldn't just be investigated. She should be prosecuted. And we need to make what she is doing and other members of Congress is doing illegal. I mean, you shouldn't be able to go up to Congress and get rich by trading on information that only you have and not members of the public. Right now, lots of members of Congress are getting by with it. We need to make the whole thing illegal.
So when you spoke to the president, did he explain why he called you second tier?
Well, I think that the president, a number of people who are opposed to banning stock trading had said to the president that he would be covered by the bill. He'd have to sell Mar-a-Lago and sell assets. Not the case at all. The president and the vice president, all their assets are totally exempted. And here's the point. This is what we talked about. The point of this bill is to ban members of Congress from trading on the information that only they have. I've supported this bill for years, Jesse. I think we call it the Pelosi Act. It is named for her because she is the poster child of this kind of behavior. It ought to be illegal and it ought to be prosecutable.
Okay, so you have to pause for a second, and it's really the frog in the pot of boiling water that we accept the level of corruption that we have. The idea that it's being presented as normal and reasonable, oh no, he was only angry because he thought it would apply to him. Now we're cool. He found out it's not going to apply to him. We're cool. That you're muted.
Oh, no, sorry. No, just nodding along, yes.
I thought you were saying something. The fact that we would even accept a proposition like that, just really, we have been conditioned as a population to just accept you're going to have this level of corruption. And I'm not trying to give aid and comfort to Democrats who want to put this all on Trump. I have been, as I said at the top of the segment, I have been screaming about how Nancy Pelosi should be in prison for insider trading pretty much for as long as we've had this show. But don't pretend it doesn't apply to Rick Scott. Don't pretend it doesn't apply to Donald Trump. It applies to all of these people. So, hey, I'm not a big fan of Mr. Hawley, who's talking about how terrible the Medicaid cuts and the big, beautiful bill are going to be for his district, who then goes and votes for it. He can be absolutely, clownish that way and very cowardly in standing up for what he claims to believe in. But hey, man, the Frederick Douglass saying Jimmy is fond of, right? I'll partner with anyone to do good. This is a good thing. I understand politically to get Donald Trump to go along with it and some others in his caucus. He wants to focus on the Pelosi element of it, but it's far from just a Pelosi problem. She's just the most successful at this. The idea that you have to exempt Trump and Vance to pass it really tells you how far this nation has fallen from any pretense that we have a functioning government. If that's what they got to do to pass it, yeah, okay. I mean, I don't think they're wrong to do it. Obviously, Donald Trump is so corrupt he would veto it if he didn't put in that provision. If I had to bet, he's going to veto it anyway on behalf of the criminals that he actually works for. But we shall see.
Yeah, we'll see. It was very confusing because, I guess, when he was talking about Pelosi there, about her being investigated, I guess he was just talking about a more targeted investigation of her without, any sweeping legislation that could have implications for him. And now, if not him, people around him, because it was very weird to see him kind of lash out at Hawley. I was like, did I miss something? Like, what, you sounded like you were for this in that last soundbite, and then he goes at Hawley yesterday afternoon. I'm like, well, wait a minute, is there something else to this? But no, there's nothing else to this legislatively because he's protected, unless he didn't know he was protected, but he must have known that. Maybe he got some calls from people around him.
Well, Hawley was saying he thought that it was going to apply to him, which would make sense with this moron. What do you mean? He's talking about me too? Give me that phone.
Yeah.
That could be what happened. Obviously, if he wanted to get all those Democrat votes, he could not include an amendment to this bill that Pelosi was going to get investigated for inside trading. And again, hey, as much as I have been calling for that for years, I do think it would be a miscarriage of justice if you did that to her and you didn't do it to all these people. If you're going to do it to Pelosi, you do it to Rick Scott, you do it to Mitt Romney, you do it to everybody.
Right. Well, that's the efficacy and the morality, I would say, of making a law banning it, because otherwise, you talk about a football, right? You could do this to whoever you want at any time for whatever reason,
sure,
right?
Sure,
right.
Sure.
So it's I think more useful to establish a sort of uniform standard against that, which they claim they have. We talked to when we interviewed, I remember Shahid Buttar a few years back. He's the guy who ran against Pelosi. I believe he tried to primary her twice. And you asked him, you said, should she be in jail for insider trading? He's like, yeah, well, she should be, but technically she can't be because what they do is not considered illegal. They have carve-outs for themselves, right? And so, you would certainly have to you would certainly have to fix that on a more macro level, which I think Trump didn't understand at first. That was in the works. He thought, hey, we'll go after Pelosi.
It's the Pelosi Act, so
it's the jail
it's
the
only
Democrat
going
Act.
after her.
Exactly. Yes. It's the jail the Democrats Act. That's right. Yep. Vito P says, you could take it from me, the St. Louis Italian food on the Hill is okay, but avoid the pizza like the plague. Cancer sucks, you guys, and a girl rock. Yeah, we are going to try the pizza. We got to do.
I mean, it just sounds like such a crime against pizza.
Yeah.
That we kind of have to do it. You know, like it's not even real cheese. It's like St. Louis cheese.
Yeah. Yeah. They're very proud of that cheese.
Yeah.
Quote unquote, the so-called cheese. The cheese, as Trump would say.
Yes, the cheese.
In the UK, you can't watch DD, the most spectacular pair of tits in the grifting world. Thank you, Professor Proudnote. Appreciate that. Democrats and Republicans agree that gerrymandering is okay when they do it. They hold the same opinion on child abuse and also think it's sexier. Thank you, Stoopstein. Appreciate that. Let's see. On animal likability, where would y'all place humanity? Perhaps somewhere between mosquito and brainworm, slightly lower, if generously including U.S. Congress. Like Keaton, he ran out of characters there. I'll find it on the back end. But yeah, I mean, I think you're more or less right there. I mean, I do not like mosquitoes. I would probably place a brainworm above a mosquito.
Aren't mosquitoes the greatest cause of death of any like animal?
I think they are the deadliest creature on earth by the numbers. Yes, because of all of the disease that they spread. Yes. Paul Chu, thanks for the $2. Brent Yoendo, thanks for the $3 super sticker. Jay Bell says, can we all agree that Sydney Sweeney's voice sucks? Kenman says Sydney Sweeney's jeans are mid. They're mid. Edward Campbell says, I'm curious if Russ thinks the Bureau of Labor Statistics has been compromised to manufacture the recent 3% GDP figure.
I mean, from what I understand, and for that kind of news, I usually go to what I consider the racing forms of the economy, you know, the just degenerate gambler financial news sites, because, you know, they're apolitical. They're just degenerate gamblers who want to win. And they're saying the numbers are probably being thrown off by the fact that you had all of these manufacturers who bought a lot of inventory in the first quarter to get around the tariffs, ahead of the tariffs. And you had a lot of people imported stuff from the United States for the same reason. So the first quarter is probably not reflective of the real economy.
Interesting. Javier, thanks to the $9.99, says, every day I feel like Jesse Pinkman yelling, he can't keep getting away with it. Also, does Russ sit in an actual chair, or does he simply rest on his giant perspicacity? Yeah, there we go. Thank you for that. All right, we're going to pause for a quick word from one of our dissident sponsors, a bard and a guitar, whose new album, Dogmatics, is a musical retelling of the Jonah fable in a modern-day setting. This satire album follows a bard and a guitar tasked by God to help the people of a city whose politics he can't stand. Featuring reinterpretations of All the Girls Go Crazy, No Irish Need Apply, and Love Me, I'm a Liberal. Find it on most music streaming platforms by searching for Dogmatics by a bard and a guitar. So you can find that on Apple, Spotify, or you can go to this handy link here, which is a link to all of his socials, dodissidents.com/bard. So please do check it out and support our dissident artists who support the show. Okay. All right. We can move right along. All right. Leo's Eco Hotel. That's next.
Sorry. I was looking at Shama reached out to us. Some very nice things to say.
Oh, nice. My contacts are all fucked up in my phone, by the way. I got to get my phone fixed. Very, very crazy. Really, really crazy stuff. Horrible.
I told him sometimes the NSA fucks up and you lose all your contacts.
I lost all of my new contact. Like the only contacts I have left are friends I haven't spoken to in years. So like anyone who I would anyone I would actually reach out to is like not in my contacts anymore. Very strange.
Well, have you thought that's the universe telling you need to mend old friendships that you've let die on the vine?
Yeah, you know? It was strange. It started last night when I called you because I couldn't find you in the recent contacts, so I just dialed your number since I haven't memorized. And ever since I dialed your number, now all of a sudden, yeah.
Dude, I don't even know your motherfucking area code.
Yeah, I have a
how do you know my?
I'm a savant with phone numbers. I have a weird thing where I tend to memorize phone numbers that I dial a lot.
Very strange.
But
maybe you should trade the market.
Yeah. Ever since I did that, like, my contacts are not showing up. Like, I don't even have, and there are certain numbers that, like, I need that I don't have, which I'm going to have to get them from you. I'm going to have to bother you for them later and manually import them if I can't fix this. All right, very good.
All right. Why don't we make that a membership perk tonight? I'll give out like Jimmy's number.
We'll give out phone numbers.
We'll just do it on the movie night.
Yeah. Well, like, I don't have Gen X Girl's phone number anymore. Like that. Like, I need that, obviously, for the segment prep, and it's gone. It's gone.
All right. So, Leo has been a busy boy in the apartheid state that he loves. DiCaprio's $100 million Israeli Riviera Dream luxury eco-hotel approved in Herzliya. This is one of two stories that really strike me as the shallowness of the liberal class's projection of morality. Because you just had a story about McBride supporting a bill that really benefits venture capital firms at the expense of the working class, but everyone wants you screaming about her right to use the bathroom of her choice rather than what she's actually doing in Congress. And Leonardo DiCaprio, of course, is known for his environmentalism. This, they say, is going to be the most environmentally friendly apartheid hotel in history.
Yes.
The Tel Aviv District Planning and Building Committee granted final approval for a sprawling luxury hotel project at Herzliya Marina, a collaboration between Israeli real estate giant Hagag Group and Hollywood star Leonardo DiCaprio, who holds a 10% stake alongside Hagag Group and brothers Akam and Lior Cohen. Initially announced in March 2018, I'm just going to say I've never known anyone with the name Lior who wasn't a total dick. Initially announced in March 2018, think about it. If you ever met a Lior who wasn't a total dick. In March 2018, with plans for 180 suites across two 6-story buildings. The project has expanded dramatically to 51,000 square meters, 14 floors, and 365 rooms, up from the original 10,000 square meters. The approval also includes 8,000 square meters of underground space for parking and operations designed by Rani Zis Architects, replacing the previously named David Rockwell. DiCaprio's environmental activism has been a driving force, with the hotel set to meet U.S. Green Building Council standards and achieve LEED certification, positioning it as one of Israel's most sustainable hospitality ventures. In 2018, DiCaprio stated, quote, "Green environmental development is a significant part of building communities that work in partnership with nature and not against it. As we seek to create a future that heads off the most severe effects of climate change, we need projects that push for new developments in environmental design." So there has already been a cut of DiCaprio, Gaza. We will see what that looks like.
Donald is coming to set you free, bringing the light for all to see. No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza #1. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza #1.
Yeah, so a couple of comments. A luxury yacht hotel from a climate activist? Well, yeah, that's part of what's so creepy about this. Leonardo DiCaprio has built so much of his legacy on fighting for climate change. It's all fake. He's buddies with Bezos, And now he's got his pockets in Israel, a.k.a. one of the biggest contributors to climate change in recent years due to the incessant bombings in Gaza. The Hagag group, led by brothers Saki and Ido Hagag, secured the land for 78 million shekels, $23 million, between 2015 and 2017. The hotel, located in the elite Herzliya Marina, dubbed the Israeli Riviera, so it really is the Trump Riviera here. It's the Gaza Riviera. Will feature a central pool, conference center, upscale restaurant, retail spaces, and direct yacht access. DiCaprio's ties to Israel extend beyond this project, rooted in his 2005 to 2011 relationship with supermodel Bar Refaeli, which brought him to the country multiple times. Now, this is my theory. This is how I think they get you. You go to sleep with your over 18 girlfriend, and you wake up with somebody else in bed with you, and then they show you the pictures.
Yeah, there
That's
you
it.
go.
They
There
got
you
you
go.
forever. His investments include the now defunct Mobley, a social media startup, and Aleph Farms, a cultivated meat company aligned with his environmental advocacy. Construction timelines remain undisclosed, but the project is expected to elevate Herzliya's status as a global luxury destination. Social media posts on X celebrated the approval, with one user noting DiCaprio's eco hotel in Herzliya is a game changer for Israel's coast. See, I wanted to build this off an uncritical article so you understand how sick these people actually are and how completely blind they are, willfully blind to public opinion. Yeah, no, people, whoa, awesome! We got
Right, yeah.
eco-friendly hotel on
Yeah.
the genocide coast. Sometimes when the wind blows, you might smell the bodies, but usually the wind blows south, not north. Don't worry. Sean King. Hollywood silence is one thing, but Leonardo DiCaprio is actively profiting from apartheid during a genocide. Yes, he is. This is from Mint Press News. Palestinian news organization Quds Network accused the Hollywood movie star of being complicit in Israeli crimes. Quote, don't forget that Leonardo DiCaprio was mentioned in Epstein's list, wrote popular Instagram account Land Palestine. So my theory might not be far from the truth, man. You know, the model girlfriend might have set him up. Never know. And this is the page I'm on from Bernie Girl No More, based. It's time to boycott DiCaprio. Yes, I agree. And I am calling for that right now. In fact, if there's not already a petition, I'm going to make one before Sunday. And I'm going to show it on the show and encourage people to sign up for it. The BDS people will tell you, you know what? Yeah, there are 100 different products and more that you can boycott. It's most effective to target specific businesses because it scares the others. It's so difficult to try to raise awareness about 100 different companies. So pick one and two, right? Starbucks, McDonald's suffered a lot because of these boycotts. Their stock prices were down. They had to mention those boycotts in their earnings reports. Yeah, man, there are a lot of people you could boycott, not with a higher profile than Leonardo DiCaprio. That is a good Hollywood Zionist to choose to boycott, particularly given the just absolute profanity of doing what he's doing, of opening an eco-friendly, trendy, upscale hotel in the middle of a genocide. I mean, who's more worthy? You know, I mean, you have these stars who break the boycott by performing there or appearing there. That's bad enough. This is way, way, way next level. So I think he is worthy of being kind of the face of who gets boycotted in Hollywood for taking this position. Now, that aside, when you look at this overall picture, this is really, you could not find a better example of the kind of creepy liberal version of dystopia than this. This is what a lot of MAGA is reacting to sometimes just instinctively about the aesthetic of liberalism. This is what they're saying. When they talk about the World Economic Forum and the New World Order, this is largely what they're reacting to. This vision of a world where the ultra rich people live in this virtuous world of recycling and small batch gourmet food, while there are the excised poor and workers kept outside the gates, not enjoying any of the fruits of that life. I mean, it's very Star Trek, like where you have this just upper class that sees itself as virtuous, that really lives on the backs of the majority of the population. And that's the creepy element. They see themselves as moral. They see themselves as the best people, as the civic leaders. And clearly, they just want to live as a privileged aristocracy. And all of these ideological commitments they make, whether it's environmentalism or gender or race, it's really because most of them are secular. They don't have a religion. This is very much your older aristocrats, the way they would build churches in order to demonstrate their superior moral virtue. That's what environmentalism and social justice is for people like Leonardo DiCaprio, clearly, because if he cared about any issues of race, any issues of social justice, he'd be running from Israel as far as he could get.
Yeah, it's really just an outrageously callous thing to do. Especially, I mean, I don't understand these people making these investments anyway. What do you need money for? Well, like, why? Yeah. You're a movie star. What do you need to be investing in hotels?
They want to be players.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. You want to be players, so you do it for the status. You do it to be seen doing it, which makes this all the more just an obscene thing to do. And he does have a movie coming out this year, which unfortunately looks very good. It's Paul Thomas Anderson's new movie, One Battle After Another. Yeah, it looks great.
So much the better. So much the better.
Yeah, it's unfortunate timing because that movie does look good. I would much rather boycott Ozzy Osbourne than not see that movie. But it's too late for that, I suppose.
Too late.
There's no more boycotting to do.
You missed it.
Yeah, I missed the boat on that. But yeah, no, it just shows the superficiality of these people and the extent to which, like, I mean, in Hollywood, I guess it's still the assumption that you're supposed to support Israel, even though more and more of these Hollywood people are coming out in opposition to it. James Schamus, the movie producer, wrote a very funny. Actually, I want to take that back. It wasn't very funny. It wasn't particularly well executed. I wish he had done a better job with it because it would have made a good segment. But he wrote a very sarcastic response to Columbia University offering reparations to Jews who felt like their feelings were hurt because of the campus protests. But he's a big movie producer, and then you have Javier Bardem obviously has been speaking out on this issue during his tour for F1.
Yep.
But you still have obviously much of Hollywood just focus under the assumption that there's no problem here. And you look at Leo, a child star, who's been in Hollywood his whole life. I mean, he was probably just, he's obviously not Jewish, but if there's anyone who would be brainwashed almost as much as a Jewish kid, it would be a Hollywood star, a child star, grew up in Hollywood, in order to make certain assumptions about Israel that apparently he is not willing to question, even in the face of this horror. So yeah, pretty tasteless, classless, callous thing to do. Not good, and not good for his image. Not good for his image as this virtuous do-gooder either. It's so tone deaf on top of everything else. Like, you don't. What
Right.
are you fucking living in what do you live under a rock? Like, you don't understand. For someone as concerned about their public image as he is, to be involved in all these philanthropic efforts, you don't understand this is going to look bad given the context of this. That's the most surprising thing about it.
As you point out, he lives in that bubble.
Right. Yeah.
He lives in that bubble with, I mean, no place is more Zionist than Hollywood.
Yep, exactly. The yuppies say, I'm so glad this whole Jeffrey E. thing has been wrapped up in a lovely bow. Like Bondi said, that's it on Epstein. Thank God they solved it. Thank you, the yuppies. Appreciate that very much. Virtuoso says a more honest American Eagle ad would show a Vietnamese, a Bangladeshi, or a Mexican using a sewing machine made from hardworking but underpaid jeans. Good one, Virtuoso.
That's a good parody concept.
Yes, that is a good parody concept. And you could probably do that with AI now.
That's what I'm saying.
Stu Shadwell, thanks for the $4.99, says, I live in St. Louis. Would you like recommendations? Yes, of course. Thank you for thank you for offering. So, yes, just email them to us.
Email us. Yeah.
Dudissidents@gmail.com. Yes,
I want to check out. I've been doing research. Apparently, there is a barbecue scene, and there's a particular place that's like a rib joint. That's famous there. We're gonna go there.
There's a couple of them, right? There's
frozen custard
Pappy's
thing.
Yeah. There's a couple famous barbecue places there, I think.
Yeah.
I think Pappy's is one of them. I forget the other ones, but yeah, there are a few. Because I remember we thought we were gonna have to spend the night in St. Louis since we almost missed a layover on the way to LA once because the flight was late taking off from New York. We were transferring in St. Louis. And so we thought we were going to miss the transfer, but apparently so many people were doing the same thing we did, which is using St. Louis as the transfer hub, that they held the outbound LA flight. That was like, that was forever ago. It was like 2012, I think. But I did look into it. Yeah, no, barbecue is a thing there. It is.
They have a blues museum.
And that makes sense too. I didn't know that, but that does make sense. That might be fun.
Yeah.
That might be a fun to do. Damon Wolf says, I never want to hear the word treason used. We're not going to hold millionaires accountable for wrecking the country for the sake of their dragon hoard of gold. We need to reclaim our country. Thank you, Damon Wolf. Appreciate that. Stoop Sign says, holy shit, Keaton, I have the same unnatural phone number remembering ability. I've never heard of anyone else having it. Well, there you go. Small world. We are a select few, Stoop Sign. As soon as the building turns... it's a good one. As soon as the building turns 25, Leo will divest himself from the project. Good one. Thank you for that. All right, folks. We will move right on along here. We are, of course, up to 790 likes. All right, keep smashing that like button. We're knocking right on the door at 1999, but not quite there yet. Need a little more in the YouTube room. So smash that like button, please, and thank you very much. All right, we will move right on along here. Okay, so this is kind of an infuriating story. So last week, the New York Times printed on their front page this photo of a Palestinian mother holding her obviously malnourished and starving child. And the online version of that article, as we'll see here, Gazans are dying of starvation. And as we'll see here, that was one of many photos exemplifying the dire crisis in Gaza. Here are some Palestinians carrying bags of aid that they just risked their lives to receive. As of course we know, about 1,000 have been killed in the process of getting such aid. Here they are gathered around these water tanks for water distribution. Here are a couple of children, obviously just horrible straits. Here's a mother preparing food for her child using a fire since there's no gas that they have to cook with. So this was not the only photo in this piece, but this was the photo that got the most focus for reasons that I'll lay out for you right now. So this is an archived version of the online post as of July 28th. So this is like the original draft of the article that was published on the 25th. So this was up for a few days. Mohammed Zakaria al-Matawak, about 18 months old, lives with his mother and brother in a tent on a Gaza beach. Mohammed's mother, Hedaya al-Matawak, 31, said the toddler's father was killed last October when he went to seek food. I walked the streets looking for food, she said by phone, her voice barely audible. The charity kitchens she relies on to help feed Mohammed and his brother, Jode, 3, cannot always help, and they go hungry. As an adult, I can bear the hunger, she said, but my kids can't. Muhammad, she said, was born a healthy child. I look at him and I can't help but cry, she said. We go to bed hungry and wake up thinking only about how to find food, she added. I can't find milk or diapers. So if you look the second to bottom paragraph, Muhammad, she said, was born a healthy child. In the updated version of the article, which is the same up until that point, they write, Muhammad, according to his doctor, had pre-existing health problems affecting his brain and his muscle development. But his health deteriorated rapidly in recent months as it became increasingly difficult to find food and medical care, and the medical clinic that treated him said he suffers from severe malnutrition. So they updated the article to change her claim, which is that he was born a healthy child, to include that his doctor says he has a pre-existing health condition. And at the end of the article, the New York Times writes this editor's note: this article has been updated to include information about Mohammed Zakaria al-Matawak, a child in Gaza suffering from severe malnutrition. After publication of the article, the Times learned from his doctor that Muhammad also had pre-existing health problems. Okay, so right there, you can ask questions about, okay, why put that editor's note in? Why update it? She claimed that he was a healthy child at birth. Now you have conflicting information. I don't know how necessary it is to even make that editor's note in the first place, but okay, you want to say we want to, cross all our T's and dot all our I's. They go ahead, they make the editor's note. All right. Then they go ahead and tweet out that they made the editor's note. So from New York Times Communications, we have appended an editor's note to a story about Mohammed Zakaria al-Matawak, a child in Gaza who was diagnosed with severe malnutrition. After publication, the Times learned that he also had pre-existing health problems. Read more below. As you can see, that tweet, as of when I screenshotted it, up to 14.9 million views. Professor Zinkus says it doesn't matter whether he has a pre-existing condition or not. Israel is starving him to death. Seriously, what the fuck is wrong with you? Gen X girl, who did not put together this segment, she did not plug herself. I am plugging her at my discretion here. Okay, so why don't you follow up with images, names, and starvation of the thousands of others who don't have a pre-existing condition? And she looped in this video here, which we will not show you the whole thing, but this goes on for 5 minutes. You get the idea. That is the extent of the horrific starvation in Gaza. So you could have picked a child without a pre-existing condition. There are many, too many to stomach, obviously. But if you notice, she embeds in that video a tweet from Congressman Randy Fine, who jumped on this, as did every other uber Zionist on X, it seems. Randy Fine says, if kids were actually starving in Gaza, the New York Times wouldn't have had to use a picture of a child with a rare neuromuscular condition to lie and claim there was. Everything about the quote-unquote Palestinian cause is a lie. Everything. Vivid, famous Zionist account. Israel may sue the New York Times for $10 billion for the blood libel it has falsely spread, and it will include personal lawsuits against the journalists who wrote those articles. It's about time they are held accountable. Max says 1 billion people saw this image. It was a lie. The child isn't starving. He has a medical condition. And now the New York Times had to apologize. Remember, if they could find an otherwise healthy child who is starving, they would. Starvation is a hoax. Palestine always lies. Now, obviously, we showed you Gen X girl's video, but even within the article, they show pictures of other children who are hungry. So that is not the only starving child that they included in that article. But obviously, truth does not matter to these people at all. Carrie Lake jumped on this. She tweeted this out. I saw that picture of the starving baby in the New York Times, and it broke my heart. Sure it did. But it wasn't real, and it wasn't some mistake. It was intentional, meant to manipulate the audience. So she actually went on one of these chud shows. Who is this? Bob Schmidt on one of these, OAN, whatever the channel is. So here she is.
This week, the Times admitting that that child actually suffered from pre-existing health conditions. It was a retraction that they didn't even post on their main account. And I always think every time there's a mistake from any of these media companies, you notice how the mistake always goes in one direction. There's never a mistake that's not of their own perceived agenda.
Okay, now that is, of course, a ridiculous claim on its face. The mass assault hoax that the New York Times famously ran with and had to walk back the beheaded babies. I mean, it's just an absurd statement to say that the media only makes errors in the pro-Palestine direction. I mean, you talk about a bubble. I mean, this is the bubble. This is the right-wing media bubble now. The media is out to get Israel. Yeah, the New York Times is out to get Israel. Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's because they're not mistakes. It's intentional. The fake news media has been doing it for years. It's been ramped up. They probably knew when they put that picture out, it was a picture that would, tug at people's heartstrings. And, I admit I saw the picture.
Israel.
I felt for that baby. I felt for that little one. Yeah. But it just wasn't true. It wasn't true with.
Bullshit, you fell for that baby. Okay, so what other babies have you tweeted about? Have you tweeted anything about starvation in Gaza?
Yeah, where was her tweet about it if it broke her heart?
Yeah, if it broke your heart so much.
She's a public figure.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you draw attention to it then?
Why wouldn't you draw focus to that? Why wouldn't you tweet out about this constantly? You saw the Gen X girl montage that goes on for 5 minutes, a 5-minute scroll of starving babies. No, it broke your heart. Yeah, sure it did.
They put out there. And then for them to apologize and not even put the apology right there on the front page of the New York Times where it should have been, it just shows you that they're completely discredited news outlet. They're a rag of a journalistic outlet, and they shouldn't be trusted for anything. If they can't be trusted on that, how can we trust them on anything that they cover?
Good question, but not for the right reasons. Okay, so I did look into this a little bit because to me, the most shocking and offensive part of this is that the New York Times would actually tweet out that editor's note, knowing full well that was going to be weaponized by these pieces of shit to insinuate and to come out, pardon me, not insinuate, come out and state definitively, as Randy Fine did, that it's all a lie, there's no starvation, it's all a big hoax. So I wanted to do a little test here and see how often the New York Times publicizes their editor's notes, because it's fairly common for newspapers to make editor's notes. It's fairly common to have some sort of update to a story that you already printed, and now you have to go back.
First draft of history.
Right, correct a certain thing or add a certain piece of context. So I'm thinking, okay, is this a point of policy of theirs that whenever they make an editor's note, they have their New York Times Communications Twitter handle tweet that out? I'm thinking maybe I'll see dozens of editor's note tweets, in which case, all right, that makes this a little bit less of a ghoulish act. So this is my screen recording. I'll walk you through what I did here. So I went to the New York Times Communications handle, which tweeted out their editor's note on this story, and I just saw how many other editor's notes there are. So follow the highlighting along. I searched editor's note under New York Times Communications, and as you could see, that is what they have in that post. I set the setting to latest, so we'll see these in chronological order, okay, so we don't miss anything. So if we scroll down, what was the last editor's note before July 29th, 2025? Oh, looks like 2023, February 2023. That one looks like 2020.
Wow.
Wow. Another one from 2020. Let's go back even further. What is that? 2019, 2018. Sorry, font's a little small for me. 2018. And that's it. That's the end of the line. So it looks like they, on very, very rare occasion, go out of their way to publicize when they made an editor's note, to tweet out to the world, hey, there's an update. Because like I said, it's very, very common to make updates to existing articles. It's not like something that like rarely happens, right? And so I thought, why don't we look this up? Russell, are you frozen?
No,
you're there. Okay, I thought you were like frozen. I thought you were frozen. Yeah, it's a very, very common thing to do, and yet they only made a public thing of it a handful of times, apparently, over the past several years. So then I noticed what Carrie Lake's other gripe was, which was that they publicized this editor's note on their communications handle, not on the New York Times main handle. So I went and I searched editor's note for New York Times main handle. And as you can see there, very, very similarly, latest example of publishing editor's notes to the main New York Times handle, October 23rd, 2023, February 14th, 2022, October 25th, 2021, which means they clearly made a point to emphasize this mistake, which was not even a mistake. The kid was actually starving to death. He was simply starving to death. Maybe he had more severe symptoms because he had a pre-existing health condition, but how does that make the starvation any less severe or any more excusable? People have pre-existing health conditions all over the place. So if my son had a pre-existing health condition that made him more susceptible to starvation, if he goes a certain period of time without food, and I take a pic and someone takes a picture of that, is that not valid reporting? Like, who cares if he has a pre-existing condition? Kids have pre-existing conditions everywhere. That's all the more reason why you can't starve children to death. So it wasn't even an error. They just got information from the kid's doctor that contradicted the mother's claim that he was born healthy. Again, I don't even really think you need to put an editor's note on that. Okay, they did it, whatever. To go ahead and tweet that out as one of a handful of editor's notes that you've publicized over the past several years in this context, when you know damn well that the Israel supporters are going to latch on to that and use that as evidence to undermine your entire story, which was, of course, totally valid and true, which is that, yes, according to the headline, Gazans are dying of starvation. Pretty outrageous. And the New York Times was victimized by protesters, seemingly in response to that. Andrew McDonald, my coworker, just sent me these photos. Someone threw red paint all across the entrance to the New York Times 41st Street office and the Starbucks next to it, drenched in blood with the message, New York Times lies, Gaza dies. Pretty outrageous stuff. Pretty horrible. Pretty horrible. So horrible that even Donald Trump contradicts this narrative that there's no starvation in Gaza.
This
Here he
was
is
amazing.
On
This
Air
was
Force
amazing.
One.
Lady, you mentioned a couple of weeks ago her role in talking to you about the war in Ukraine and perhaps a big part of your evolution in thinking. Have you discussed the crisis in Gaza and the terrifying...
I have, and she thinks it's terrible, and she sees the same pictures that you see, and that we all see, and I think everybody, unless they're pretty cold-hearted or worse than that, nuts. There's nothing you can say other than it's terrible when you see the kids. And those are kids, whether they talk starvation or not, those are kids that are starving. They are starving. And you see the mothers, they love them so much, and there's just nothing they seem to be able to do. They got to get them food, and we're going to get them food.
Yeah, so even Donald Trump is not parroting the line that it's all a hoax and that it's all fake. But, I mean, to me, it's just shameful. It's just shameful that they would do that. To me, it's questionable the necessity to make that correction in the first place, since they were quoting the mother. But to tweet that out and give these people that kind of ammunition to go ahead and promulgate the lie that this is all made up, really horrible stuff. Really horrible stuff. There was nothing wrong with their original report that they had to do that and then make a big show of, wait a minute, we issued a correction. Turns out that kid was sick to begin with. How fucking sick are you to say that kid was sick to begin with? How fucking crazy are you?
The Nazis used to say that. Like, people were able to produce examples in response to this of the Nazis claiming that the people photographed were sick. That's why they looked like that.
Yeah.
All right. So I wasn't gold breaking there. This happened to break at the same time that I did something I very rarely do. I've mentioned I know a couple of Zionists. I don't usually engage them, but off, not publicly in a DM chain, because the Israeli human rights organizations just came out. Bet Salam just came out and said, yes, they're committing a genocide. And I was just really curious because there are things that you're going to hear from these wackos if you have like that kind of a private conversation that you're not usually going to see in a post. Like if you really go down the rabbit hole with these people, they live in their own reality. I'm going to read you a little bit of this because she did mention this New York Times thing to justify what she was claiming.
That's what made it such a terrible thing to do.
They live in a parallel universe. They have their own social media. They go to deeply Zionist organizations. They read the kinds of very distorted works of history that Finkelstein and Pape have knocked down, but to them, those are gospel. And, there are smears against Pape and Finkelstein that they will run right to if you invoke them as a source. Blumenthal is right. He coined the phrase Ziontology. It's exactly like dealing with people in any cult. They have their own mythology, and there's really nothing you can say to them. There is an answer to everything, no matter how outlandish, no matter how self-contradictory. Here's a little insight into the Zionist mind. Yeah, I'm sure there's suffering, but there's no genocide. Israel has done more for Gazan civilians than Hamas has. It's damning that the UN, UNRWA, or any other NGOs refuse to safely, effectively distribute all that aid Israel sent in. Obviously, this strategy of starvation is working for Hamas. Seems it's one of their best tactics for success in a war they knew damn well they couldn't win militarily. I saw the aid sitting there. I saw the baby formula UN refuses to distribute. I used that brand. Top quality European formulas that uppity moms here spend a fortune to import. Shit is fucking expensive. I know it cost Israel a whole lot to support Gazans. And then Hamas, with their UNRWA accomplices, let Gazans suffer for the PR. And clearly it's working. Working on you. Dude, that's the world they live in, man. That's the world they live in. And I'm sure, she didn't just come up with that. She went to a social media site that said, look at this aid sitting on the docks that Israel sent. And it's a cult, man. They don't question it.
Well, that's why it was all the more outrageous for them to do this because, they first of all, where they get the idea that 1 billion people saw this image of the mother. First of all, because we used that image in another piece, and there were some Israel, stooges claiming that was an AI photo, that it wasn't real to begin with, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're saying it was real to begin with, but that it's still not valid because the kid had a pre-existing condition. That's why that had 15 million views, because yes, of course, the Israel propagandists latch on to things like that, and try to use it to invalidate the whole story, which certainly the New York Times knew would happen. And so, if you had to make the editor's note, I won't necessarily quibble with that. If there was a detail that comes out that contradicts something, there's no need to tweet that out. You've tweeted out a handful of editor's notes over the past several years. Why that one? Why that one? If not to basically throw a wet towel on that whole story. Yeah.
Right.
And now that killed that whole story. Right. In other words, that story was too damaging to Israel. And so, look, here's a way to save face. Let's put out an editor's note saying, actually, that kid was sick to begin with. Just disgusting. Just horrible.
This is the same newspaper that had to cancel their follow-up to their article, Scream Without Words, making claims about assault on October 7th that turned out they sent completely inexperienced, unqualified reporters to cover a very complicated story like that and had no evidence for what the article was claiming.
Yep. Pretty horrible stuff. Eric Rousseau says the new DiCaprio Eco Hotel in Israel will have an environmental friendly area where Israelis can loogie on Christian tourists. Thank you. There will be Epstein
well, that's
signature
how they're
concierge
supplying
services.
the water to the rooms. It's
Yeah,
very
right, exactly.
environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
It's all going to be loogies spit
right.
by real Orthodox anti-Christian activists.
Yeah. There will be Epstein signature concierge services. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. Boycotting the DiCaprio movie is essential. Remember that P.T. Anderson also a Zionist, two birds.
Oh, is he?
I didn't know that about him.
That's sad. That's
Yeah.
sad. He's so talented.
Yeah, he's very good. I didn't know that about him. Kemen says younger Hollywood encouraging already Ariana Grande and Olivia Rodrigo calling out Israel. You may not know these broads, but they are famous. Yeah, I've heard of both of them. Kemen.
Well,
Vito.
and our kind of like mascot, Rachel Zegler, she's also been very based on this.
That's right.
Yeah.
The St. Louis
Friend
Art
of
Museum
show.
is okay, yes, but let's face it, it's not the Met. Let's face facts. This is the cornfield mecca. Cancer sucks, you guys, and the girl rock. Thank you, Vito. Appreciate that.
Yeah, generally, like especially if I have limited time, I will look in advance at the website if there's anything in an art museum worth seeing before I go. Because
There you
usually,
go.
yeah, like more region. But every now and then they do have very special things that are specific to that place that might be worth seeing. You never know. I don't think that's one of them, though.
Yeah, I haven't looked into that one.
For American art, honestly, I think the Art Institute of Chicago is better than anything we have in New York.
That's supposed to be good. Yes, I've heard great things about that one. On family vacation, my brother-in-law avoided your long Facebook debate. Next day, he sent me an article. You had 8 days to debate me in person, but okay, changed my mind. How is Israel good for the U.S.? Thank you, Crystal. It's Vito. Says there are some interesting historical places along the River Road, mostly dealing with the Mississippi River commerce, Marquette, and Joliet. Cancer sucks, you guys, in a girl rock.
Yeah,
Thank
see,
you.
that's the kind of, that's the shit you do if you're in a place like St. Louis.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, that seems cool. That seems fun. Only here long enough to say, says Ken Texican, give all those lying, shameful bastards their due dissidents. Give them hell DD, free Palestine. Thank you, Ken Texican. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Brad Gilbert says, my theory, only convid and Zionist contacts remain. Yeah, interesting. On my iPhone? Yeah, that's interesting. I have to look into that. It's so weird. It's so weird. Because what's really strange about it is, okay, I'll check, okay, is so-and-so in my contacts? So I'll search them, and their name will not come up, but their number will come up. So then I can manually add them back in. That's very bizarre. Very, very bizarre. I don't know what the hell's going on. Figure out what the hell's going on. Javier says DiCaprio is probably pro-genocide because the children are probably too old for him. Ah, good one, Javier. Artie Blarty Fartblast says, can we offer Gal Gadot a free ticket to Belgium? Gavin Hillock, thanks for the €5. Pre-existing doesn't mean congenital. The doctor didn't even contradict the mother. Ah, good point. See, good point. See, that's a science-minded points. Artie Blarty Fartblast says, Hamas made me do it, said the abusive husband. Brad Gilbert says the bullet in AP's Butler photo is AI generated. Test it yourself. AI says whole photo is real, but you crop out the bullet. Fake AF. If you know, you know. Thanks, Brad Gilbert. Appreciate that very much. All right. We will move right on along here. All right, folks. So obviously the news out of Gaza is just horrible. But we thought, this is the last show of the week. We will at least end the Gaza famine coverage on an inspiring note, if not a happy one, an inspiring one. Egyptians launch symbolic initiative to deliver food to Gaza by bottles in the sea as starvation soars. So Egyptians, horrified by scenes of starvation coming out of Gaza, have launched a symbolic initiative named From Sea to Sea, a Bottle of Hope for Gaza. The initiative has seen Egyptians fill 1 and 2 liter bottles with grains, rice, lentils, and other dry food supplies before placing them in the Mediterranean Sea in the hope that they will reach Gaza. So this is apparently the video that started this off. This went viral. Middle East Eye reports last week. A video posted on social media shows an Egyptian man throwing plastic bottles filled with grain and flour into the sea, hoping they will reach Gaza. The man urged others to do the same, saying this bottle might save you on Judgment Day. So let's take a look at this video.
احمل عنا هذا إلى غزة. سامحونا يا إخواننا. سامحونا. ما فيش في مقدرتنا حاجة نعملها لكم. الإزازة دي ممكن تبقى سبب نجاتك يوم القيامة. اللهم كما حملت نوحا في البحر في موج كالطود العظيم احمل عنا هذا إلى غزة.
Participants in the initiative said that it came as a desperate measure to overcome Israel's crippling siege, which has seen trucks of emergency aid being stopped at border crossings while hundreds of thousands starve. Those taking part have also called on people in countries bordering the Mediterranean, including Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco, to get involved. So here is a reaction to this movement. It has kind of created a trend, mostly on TikTok, but on Instagram to an extent as well.
This morning, and just a little bit of hope in humanity has been restored. In a movement that is now being dubbed Bottles to Gaza, people in Libya, Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco are all filling empty water bottles with rice, lentils, beans, and then they are tossing it into the sea, hoping that the currents bring it to Gaza. Even children are helping, putting notes inside for encouragement.
فكرة إن إحنا نوصل أكل لفلسطين من أطفال سيناء لأطفال غزة عن طريق البحر.
Throw it into the water and let us wish for the sail to wind to take it to Gaza.
So if you needed something a little positive to help you get through the day, this is it.
According to local Arabic media, the idea was inspired by the message in a bottle method and has since garnered widespread praise, particularly on social media platforms. The idea was reportedly proposed by an Egyptian academic and engineer based in Japan who suggested that delivering food across the sea was the most practical method given the ongoing blockade on Gaza. In a Facebook post, he explained that a tightly sealed 25-liter plastic jerry can can hold approximately 6 to 8 kilograms of food, leaving an air gap of around 8 liters to ensure buoyancy. So here are some posters that are put out with some instructions on what to do. Break the siege, 1 million bottles for Gaza to the free people of the world. Create a floating bottle half filled with rice, flour, grains, or seeds, and throw it into the nearest water. This is, of course, if you're bordering the Mediterranean. Otherwise, you might hurt some fish, and that would make Leonardo DiCaprio very upset. He added that the containers should be released at least 4 kilometers from the coast at a 60-degree angle to the northeast to bypass opposing currents. Surface currents in the eastern Mediterranean flow from west to east at a speed of up to 0.8 kilometers per hour, meaning the containers could reach the shores of Gaza within 72 to 96 hours if sent from areas such as Damietta or east of Port Said, the Post read. Many online users saw the post and expressed hope before going on to share videos of people who took on his suggestion. Some dubbed it a sincere expression in the face of the impotence of governments. Others said that symbolic initiatives should be turned into effective popular pressure by supporting trusted relief organizations and demanding urgent international action to break the blockade and open crossings to allow in vital aid. And as Habiba notes, the bottles with food thrown into the sea from Egypt made it through to Gaza already. So some actually did land on shore. I'm told these simulations based on NASA and NOAA data show ocean currents will move the bottles towards Gaza. Check them out. So you had actually people sharing data regarding the currents and the angles at which to drop these bottles into the ocean in terms of ideal locations to maximize the probability that they will actually land in Gaza. And as we could see here, some of them have. Okay, a bottle filled with grains has finally reached Gaza. Their slogan, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. More of the bottles of rice and grain from Egypt are making it to the shores of Gaza. This is a kind gesture by the Egyptians. So we'll show you this video here. Bottles of food from North African countries begin to wash up in Gaza. So let's take a look at this video of one of them making it to shore.
طلع من البحر طلع تعال شكله هذا مش عارف من اي دوله زينا الله هات بس سكينه عشان نمسح نطلع الورقه ايش فيها جراي
What is that, rice? Some kind of grain. It's hard to tell what this is. They have, lentil, rice.
بسم الله من مصر إلى غزة ربنا يفرجها عليكم ونحبكم تحياتي للشعب المصري تحياتي للشعب المصري وتحياتي للسيسي الله يسعد دينكم عدس اليوم عدس.
Sarah Wilkinson posts viral videos of bottles of grain thrown into the sea. Some of the bottles to Gaza might just make it.
A video went viral that showed an Egyptian man throwing plastic bottles filled with rice, pasta, lentils into the ocean, hoping that they would float to Gaza. I read the translated version and I sobbed like a baby. The way he asked for forgiveness, the way he begged Noah, the prophet Noah, peace be upon him, to take these bottles to the people of Gaza. Like that video hit me some way different. Like, look at the Egyptian government and how they have closed the Rafah border, how they are not letting food or aid in or injured people out. And the simple, normal, everyday people are filling up plastic bottles on the hope that it would somehow get through and feed someone just for one day. But you know what? I'm crying because I'm really touched as well. Because I've seen images today, because that video went viral, and I have seen image after image of Egyptians going to the seaside, to the beach near the water, throwing in the same bottles, leaving little messages of solidarity, of hope. And I am just praying to God that some of these bottles do wash up on the shores of the beach in Gaza. But even in itself, this act, this simple act of solidarity, while international governments, including Muslim governments, have stood by while the Palestinian people are forcibly starved. It's not a famine, they're forcibly starved. The borders can be open, people can be fed. Thousands upon tens of thousands of children are at risk of dying of starvation. There are so many hungry people. They are so desperate. They are going to aid centers where they are being slaughtered like lambs. Enough is enough. If the desperate actions of a few heartfelt people doesn't move you, I don't know what will. They are starving to death. It is stage 5. They are eating themselves from the inside. And this, alhamdulillah, for all the good people in the world.
So this story is one example among many that we've seen in recent weeks, but especially in recent days, where I think perhaps the tipping point that we've reached is one where, okay, you have, centers of power, centers of political power, centers of economic power, centers of knowledge power, if you will, media power, right? Dissemination of information, the power that comes with the sort of centralized ability to do that certain people have a grip on and most don't. But when you look at the amount of people who can see very plainly now the truth for what it is, including here in America, where only 30% now approve of Israel's actions, down from well over 50 in October of 2023, to states around the world now saying that they are gearing up to recognize a state of Palestine at the UN General Assembly meeting in New York this September, which we are going to try to get press access to. What you're seeing here is a tipping point where I think truth is starting to spread much faster than these centers of power can act to contain it. Like they're just not able to act quick enough to contain the spreading of the truth. There's a great scene in the play Doubt where the priest is completely different context, obviously, but he's lecturing one of the nuns that to spread false rumors about someone is like to go up to the roof of an apartment building and cut open a pillow, and the feathers just fly everywhere faster than you could do anything about it. Once you cut the pillow open, and once the feathers fly out all over the neighborhood, it's too late to contain it. Whatever was in that pillow is gone. I think the truth of what's happening is that right now. I think it is too fast for them to contain, to the point where even these people who live under these governments who gaslight them, just as our government gaslights us, just as a lot of these European governments gaslight their own people, none of it's working anymore. None of it's working anymore. And that's part of why I thought it was so important to cover Brazil's withdrawal from the IHRA, to make a statement that you're not going to bully us into silence by calling us anti-Semites, right? Or by insisting, as Bernie Sanders does, well, they have the right to defend themselves, as if this is anything resembling self-defense. It's just not working anymore. It's just not working anymore. Too many people are wise to it, and too many people feel too compelled to act. I think that's what we're starting to see now in these last few days, especially. And it feels so strange to say it as people who have covered this now for almost 2 years straight. But as you said in a previous show, you know, the cross that a lot of us have to bear is that we are the first to notice things that the world catches up to when it's usually too late.
Yeah, that's the gig, man. That's the activist gig. You're always going to be a Cassandra. You know, no sooner is the world going to come around to your point of view on one thing, always years after they should have, and years too late to prevent the suffering that you were trying to prevent when you started speaking out about it. It's going to be another thing. As soon as you've won that, that's the gig. That's the activist gig. That's why a lot of people can't handle it long term. They burn out on it. They get too frustrated about it. But I think it's very rewarding in the end. That's the job, man. That's your role. You know, accept it. Be glad that in the end, you will accomplish something. It can just be a hard road, right? When I see the conversation changing, I know that the people who thought the way that we did, who wouldn't shut up about this, we're the reason. Right. We are the reason. If we all had just been like, yeah, you know, it's complicated. What are you going to do? Yeah. You think
and this never
Canada, UK, France would all be on the verge of recognizing a Palestinian state? Right. As far as Egypt goes, is a very good example of why the West has made sure not to allow real democracy to establish itself in that region. And it is one of the main things that Zionist propagandists and just Western chauvinists generally use as evidence that these people are, even if they don't phrase it in that way, backwards. They're backwards, they're ignorant, they're uneducated, they're in the Middle Ages. The reason that they have these authoritarian autocratic governments is that we overthrew any attempts they ever made to have Western-style democracies. Because if they do have those democracies, they're going to let the aid trucks into Gaza. They're going to open up the Rafah border. There was a lot of going to what you were talking about, you know, the way they gaslight their own populations. A lot of Zionists were very heartened. They were spreading around these videos of when the foot flotilla tried to go in, them being attacked by Egyptians. There were always collaborators with the regime. One, that doesn't mean it represents the Egyptian people.
Right.
And the regime has a vested interest in showing those videos to pretend that they represent the majority of Egyptians.
Sure.
And you don't know what they told them about this group. These people, they're Zionists. They could have told them anything. You don't know what they told them that made them attack the group in that way. This is where you see the actual people. In terms of if you're a radical/revolutionary, the real question when you see this kind of a contrast between the decency of the people and the amorality and underlying illegitimacy of their government and how much their government does not represent them. This is really the question. Like, how do we, because this isn't just a problem in Egypt, there's a problem in America, there's a problem everywhere. Our governments do not represent us worldwide, with some, arguable exceptions, very few. What do we do about it? What do we do about it? Back in the 60s, back in the 70s, we're going to meet Uhuru, who are like among the last survivors of that tradition of thinking globally in terms of worldwide revolution, in terms of solidarity, not just among classes in one country, but among classes in all countries. How do we do that? How do we construct that? How do we create solidarity with these Egyptians throwing these bottles into the water? That is the challenge of our time for people who have the aspirations that we do.
Yeah, and I think the challenge is getting people to prioritize what's important as opposed to getting distracted by what's not important. Because when you look at public opinion...
That's why we didn't cover Sydney Sweeney.
Exactly, yes. Well, yes, exactly. I mean, when you look at public opinion, the wisdom of crowds generally holds up. I mean, on this, the public has turned against Israel in a massive way. So why is it? And that was true to an extent, not to as large an extent as now, but still you had majority opposition to Israel going into the election of 2024. Most of the public had turned on them by that point.
Right.
Okay, so how do you get to a point then, if most of the public is anti-Israel, how do you get to an election between two staunchly pro-Israel candidates in Kamala Harris and Donald Trump? Well, the way you get there is because people have been distracted into caring about other things that don't matter as much. And that's the other thing about this genocide that I think is an exception to that. It affects people so viscerally that they're just not able to look away from it. That's the importance of someone like Miss Rachel going out and spreading the word, because she's activating a group of people like the Instagram moms who are generally pretty apolitical.
Right.
Now they are compelled to act on this. And by act, I don't necessarily mean that they're going to go join the Freedom Flotilla. I mean, they may take this into consideration when they decide who to support and who not to. We're not going to get too into the weeds of the vote that Bernie brought to the floor on suspension of offensive aid to Israel, but you had, for the first time, a majority of Democrats vote to block aid to Israel. And the ones that don't, where they think they're going in a Democratic primary, I don't know, because right now fewer than 10% of Democratic voters support Israel's actions. So you got a guy like John Ossoff who votes to continue arms to Israel. He's been making a lot of noise like he's going to run. I don't know where you think you're going in a party that has 90+% opposition to Israel. The only play you have at that point is to distract them into voting based on some other issue. Right? Because if they actually prioritize this, then there's no way we can lose. But the reason we don't win is because the establishment tricks us into obsessing about, a bimbo who lost a fucking swim meet one time, to a trans swimmer. And that's how you get to this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Keaton.
Yes.
You have good genes, man.
Yeah, I have good genes. Yes, exactly. Yes. All right. John Olmstead, I took a while to subscribe because every time I give a political project money, they sell out 6 months to a year later, all the way back to Bernie in 2016. Don't let me down, boys. Love you guys. All right. What is
Thank
it?
you.
July. All right. So we could sell out in what, January? All right. Then,
January,
thanks for
keep
giving
our
us the
promise.
timetable. Yeah,
it's a
that's
win
right.
for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. All right. But it's nice to have a timetable we could put on things. Javier, thanks for the $4.99. K, that truth statement reminded me of the saying, the lie travels around the world before the truth can put its boots on. Yes, not anymore. Thank you, Javier. Milton Crow, thanks for the $10. Star Trek has always been genuinely progressive because both genes were secular humanists. Roddenberry and Kuhn would have loved ST Discovery, married gay communist characters, and all. Artie Blarty Fart Blast, if I can boycott Marvel over the Silver Surfer being a bloke, I can avoid a DiCaprio movie. There you go. Thank you for that. Dalton, thanks to the $1. All right, folks, we have one more segment on the day. Before we get to that, though, I do want to pause for a quick word from another dissident sponsor of ours, Mr. John Coa, who has a new single out off his new album, A to Z. It's called Just a Little Off the Rails. It's the latest preview from his upcoming album, and its backstory is truly unique. The rhythm tracks for these songs come from a collection of John's live acoustic performances recorded between 2017 and 2020. He'd planned to release them as is, but like many of us, he felt the world's current state, the very issues we talk about on this show, made it the wrong time for a celebratory release. So he took that time to continue recording, and now he has an epic album on the way. Just a Little Off the Rails is the first single off of it. It's an autobiographical song featuring acoustic guitar, vocals, bass, and slide. So find John Coa on Spotify and check it out. He's got a YouTube channel you could subscribe to, youtube.com/John Coa. And you can find a link to all of his socials, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, everything, all in one place at this nifty little link we made up, dudissidents.com/Coa. Okay. Professor Brown note says DJT is putting out a rendition of Velvet Underground's White Light, White Heat, White Power, Orange Hue. Good one. Eric Husseau says, my Zionist Christian army buddy still throws human shields BS at me. Israel is part of their Christian identity. Thank you, Eric. Oops, what did I do? I don't think I deleted one. No, I just did the wrong thing there. Okay. I Am the Owl says it's a tough contest, but I'd have to say Itmar Ben-Gvir is the most evil man on the planet Earth, even above Bibi and Smotrich. I get physically ill knowing my tax dollars go to these Hills Have Eyes people. Assuming you ran out of characters there, but I assume that's what you meant. 3 Tom the Bomb says our leaders are psychopaths. It's our duty and mission to stop them. We require an organized national political party to have a chance. That party is the American Communist Party. Join. Thank you, 3 Tom the Bomb. Appreciate that. You're our high-rolling communist there with the $10 chats. Damon Wolf, I was just talking about this morning, the helplessness in the face of darkness. Bottles to Gaza is the spirit of resistance and humanity we all need to adopt. Only the people of the world can... Why is it running out of characters so often? Can end the evil. Thank you, Damon. Appreciate that. Okay. We will finish up our Super Chats and Rumble Rants after this, our final segment of the day. And then don't forget, folks, sign up for membership, patreon.com/DoDissidents, movie club tonight at 7:30. Special member perk tonight. So if you want to see more of us today, it's a dissident doubleheader for members. Make sure you sign up, patreon.com/DoDissidents.
That's going to be a fun one, man. That is quite the time capsule.
Yeah, that should be a fun one, indeed.
You know what I got to look up, man? One of the things I remember from that movie is there was a band. It was kind of a running thing. They were very confident they were going to make it. And that was like a big subject of their interview. She asked him, how do you know you're going to make it? If you heard us play, you would know we're going to make it. You'd never heard of this band. I got to look up what became of them.
There you go.
Okay. So Fat Randy Fine, as he's affectionately known around the cafeteria, he dropped another banger. Release the hostages. Until then, starve away. This is all a lie anyway. It amazes me that the media continues to regurgitate Muslim terror propaganda. Now, to her credit, Marjorie Taylor Greene flapped back on this. This is part of what she said. It's the most truthful and easiest thing to say that October 7th in Israel was horrific and all hostages must be returned, but so is the genocide, humanitarian crisis, and starvation happening in Gaza. But a Jewish U.S. representative calling for the continued starvation of innocent people and children is disgraceful. His awful statement will actually cause more anti-Semitism. Listen, man, when Marjorie Taylor Greene understands this better than a good portion of the Jewish community, you know you've entered bizarro world.
Yes.
She gets that this is causing anti-Semitism. So let's see where Bernie Sanders stands on the G word that Marjorie Taylor Greene just used for the first time.
Yeah, where you would call what's happening in Gaza genocide?
You can use whatever word you want.
But Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying that she's the
That's
first
good for
Republican
Marjorie
to go there.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Look, genocide is a legal term. What is going on now clearly is absolutely horrific. 60,000 people dead and 140,000 who have been wounded. But the important point is not what you call it. It is horror. And I think the whole world knows that. The answer is, what the hell do we do about it? Should the United States taxpayer, should your taxpayer dollars go to support a government that is doing it? That is the most important issue.
No, actually, I'm sorry to pause this. I just have to say it is a legal term. It is a legal term. There are 5 criteria for genocide: killing members of a group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of a group, deliberately inflicting unlivable conditions on members of a group, preventing measures intended to imposing measures intended to prevent birth among members of a group, and forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. Israel blatantly guilty of 4 out of 5, and they are trying very hard, as we now know, to implement that 5th one, which is the transfer of Palestinians from Gaza elsewhere. So actually, yes, it is a legal term, and they are guilty 4 times over, 5 times if they have their way. So yes, it is a legal term. Correct, and they are guilty of it.
So immediately, you got to get ceasefire, you got to get humanitarian aid in, but the United States cannot continue to aid and abet the Netanyahu government doing what it's doing.
Do you want to see United States personnel on the ground helping distribute aid? I mean, what is another scenario here, do you think?
The United Nations has done, under very difficult circumstances, a good job until they were kicked out by Netanyahu. So I would like to bring them back, and I think they're prepared to come back.
Yeah, okay, so profile and courage, like always, that old sheepdog, Bernie Sanders, still at it. His position is the liberal Zionist position. It's all Netanyahu's fault. But hang on. I thought you said this was the only democracy in the Middle East. Didn't they elect Netanyahu? Is Netanyahu kind of an aberration? No, Netanyahu has been in Israeli government in one capacity or another, very often at the head of the Israeli state, for over 20 years. So doesn't he represent Israeli society? How about polls that show that more than half of Israelis would like to genocide, literally wipe out the people of Gaza? That 82% want them transferred to other areas. What about that? Is that all Netanyahu causing that?
How about this? Sorry, just to add one more thing, just to compound that point. How about both recent times that Netanyahu lifted an aid blockade to let a modest amount of food in, he had to make a video apologizing for doing so to the Israeli people. He had to make videos saying, hey, now listen, we're only letting through a minimal amount, and it's only to keep the international community off of our ass. Both times he had to basically apologize to his own country for doing it.
Right. For these Jewish Zionists of Sanders' generation, for the most part, that's as far as they're going to go. It's as far as they're going to go. The idea of questioning the legitimacy of the Zionist project, they're just not going to go there. They're not going to go there. And at that point, the only way that you could take an adversarial stance while still maintaining this pretense that this state should continue to exist as an apartheid ethno-supremacist state is to say this isn't what Israel is. This is all Netanyahu. This is all Netanyahu in an extreme right-wing government that's hijacked this otherwise noble nation. Now, this is nothing new. When I went to the Bowman rally, I put together a montage. Part of that montage was Bernie talking about how Israel has a right to defend itself. He's been hitting that note throughout. And he did it again just last month, even as it becomes very, very clear, even though he won't use the word, he's actually been outflanked by Marjorie Taylor Greene on claims of that Israel is committing a genocide. he is still going on with the right to defend itself.
Is a terrorist organization which began this war with a brutal terrorist attack on October 7th, 2023 that killed 1,200 innocent Israelis and took 250 hostages. Everyone agrees with that. The International Criminal Court was right to indict the leaders of Hamas as war criminals for those atrocities. And I think most of us agree with that. There is also, I believe, no disagreement as to whether or not Israel, like any other country similarly attacked, had a right to defend itself. Clearly, it did.
Okay, so we are not claiming that atrocities were not committed on October 7th or that no civilians were killed by Hamas, but he makes the claim that 1,200 Israelis were killed by Hamas and no one disagrees with that. Well, except the IDF. Except the IDF.
And the Israeli paper of record.
And the Israeli paper of record. IDF ordered Hannibal Directive on October 7th to prevent Hamas taking soldiers captive. As I recall, the Israeli internal investigation itself blamed something like 400 of the deaths on their own helicopter fire. I'm going off memory there, so forgive me if I'm off on the figures.
Well, you look, I mean, sorry to cut you off, but we did a segment with Jimmy right after October 7th where they showed all those cars that had been seemingly firebombed. Now, the Hamas combatants that crossed the border didn't have the weaponry to do that, so those must have been done from the air by IDF forces. So you don't know exactly how many people, but you know quite a few. You know quite a few, and that's the Israeli paper of record saying that. It's not us saying that.
Here's John Mearsheimer explaining what the Hannibal Directive is. This interview was December 2023, so not very long after the event.
Quite clear that on October 7th, a good number, we don't know what the number is, but a good number of the Israelis who were killed were not killed by Hamas, they were killed by the IDF. And I find that hardly surprising, given the nature of the fight that was taking place. It is hard to discriminate in those situations. Now, the Hannibal Doctrine is a very different matter. The argument there, or the claim there, is that what the Israelis do is that if it looks like an Israeli soldier or even an Israeli citizen is going to be captured by Hamas or some other terrorist group, to use the Israelis' language to describe those groups, then the IDF will kill those Israelis so that they don't become hostages. And the logic here is that Israelis have such a high regard for human life that if hostages are captured, it will be almost impossible for Israel not to pay an enormous price to get those hostages back. So it's better to surreptitiously kill them, better for the IDF to surreptitiously kill them rather than have them become hostages. And there is a great deal of evidence that there is this Hannibal Doctrine in practice inside of Israel.
That's murder.
I guess you could call it that.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, when he's not misrepresenting the general understanding of what happened on October 7th and refusing to use the word genocide to describe what Israel is doing based on deflection to legalism, he's telling Zoran Mamdani to tone it down and explain himself better. Nick put out a short video about that. We'll take a look at some of it.
Sanders met with Zoran Mamdani and told him that he needs to chill out regarding how he talks about Israel and their genocide of the Palestinian people. Bernie Sanders says that Zoran Mamdani needs to be more considerate of Jewish people's feelings when he talks about the issue of Israel, at a time where Israel is slaughtering Palestinians and starving them to death? Why is Bernie Sanders spending his time centering the opinions of genocidal Zionists who smear Americans as anti-Semitic? Zionist propagandists like Bernie Sanders are pretending that Zohran Mamdani is scaring the Jews, even though Zohran Mamdani won the Jewish vote. You guys also see how the liberal Zionist Bernie Sanders is legitimizing the anti-Semitism hoax that is used to censor Americans? Why aren't you centering the feelings of Palestinians whose family are being slaughtered while they are being smeared as being anti-Semitic because they call out the crimes of the state of Israel?
All right. To Nick's point, this poll just dropped. It's been making the rounds, getting quite a lot of coverage. Got the cover story in Newsweek this week. Zohran Mamdani is blowing out the competition with Jewish voters in New York. 43% to Andrew Cuomo. That's a 17% spread with the second place candidate. Among Reformed and secular Jews, 55% to 22%. Conservative Orthodox, even that is not as lopsided as you'd expect. Andrew Cuomo has an advantage, 33 to 21, but he's splitting it with Adams. Tells you something about the politics of that community. Well, who do we go for? We go for the sex criminal, or we go for the campaign finance criminal? Which one? So 27% they want to go for Eric Adams. So they're kind of splitting the vote there. Jews aged 18 to 44, 67%. 67%.
That's that's me, Jew 18 to 44.
There you go. 45 plus, he's losing, but again, not as lopsided as you'd expect. Cuomo has 38 of those. Mamdani has 25. So why exactly does he need to tone down his rhetoric and explain himself better? Looks like he's doing just fine with the Jewish population of New York. And not just young voters, not exclusively young voters. He's blowing it out with young voters, but he's doing pretty well across the board. He's doing better than Adams. With every group of Jews, he's doing better than Adams.
You know who's also doing better than? Bernie Sanders. This is the irony of having a loser lecture a winner about running for office. You know, Zohran Mamdani won his primary. Bernie Sanders lost two Democratic primaries.
Exactly.
Not only did Zohran Mamdani win his primary, he won it actually implementing the exact theory of the case that Bernie failed to implement. Zohran Mamdani's theory of the case was, I'm going to drive youth turnout through the roof, and that's going to put me over the top. And that's exactly what he did. Bernie promised to do that twice, and twice came up short. Partly for reasons beyond his control, like party fuckery, but partly because of shit like this, because of weakness. Mamdani rode the pro-Palestine movement to the nomination and has unfortunately been bizarrely quiet on the subject since, which is very discouraging. So please don't mistake this for, some sort of campaign ad for Mamdani. But facts are facts. The facts of the matter is Mamdani's a winner. Bernie Sanders is a loser. So what is he doing lecturing him in the first place? Exactly. Why should Mamdani want his advice in the first place?
Exactly. So Sanders did, what was this vote last night, right? A record high 27 Democratic senators voted for a Bernie Sanders-led resolution blocking the sale of bombs to Israel. The motion failed 27 to 70. Of course, the Republicans almost universally voted against it. But you did get a bare majority of the Democrats to actually, acknowledge that only 9% of their voters support this. Throw them a few crumbs. And again, you could talk about the threat to democracy Donald Trump represents. What democracy? What democracy? What kind of democracy where only 9% of your voters support something and getting a bare half of your representatives in the Senate to vote that way is supposed to be some kind of a triumph? But Sanders led that effort. And again, his position, it's very much what liberal Zionists will defer to, even within Israel. That's their, it's Netanyahu. It's Netanyahu. Because if they don't blame it on Netanyahu, they have to reckon with the criminal nature of the Israeli state in and of itself. And they're not going to do that.
Right. Exactly. And all of the just, mixed messaging and weak signaling. Now, this whole, right to defend itself argument that he makes sounds a whole lot like, well, I didn't vote. And in Bernie's case, he actually didn't vote this way in the run up to the Iraq war. But the whole self-defense construction sounds a lot like, well, I didn't vote for the Iraq war. I voted to give George Bush the authority to declare war.
Right.
In other words, I voted for a theoretical, exercise of military power under the assumption that they're going to exercise it in the most careful and restrained way possible, while knowing they're not. Right. To me, that is like, and Bernie voted against authorization of the use of force for George W. Bush going into Iraq, and this is the other thing that's just so revealing in retrospect about the pitfalls of that movement, which is that you always had this guy, whether it's, the way he talks about Israel is the way he talked about Hillary Clinton, is the way he talked about Joe Biden, right? This is of my good friend Joe. Okay, well, you're not leading a political revolution starting out with, how much respect you have for Hillary Clinton, or what good friends you are with Joe Biden, or how Israel has the right to defend itself, and parroting numbers about the impetus for this recent flare-up in violence. And I call it a recent flare-up in violence because it wasn't the start of a war. These countries,
of course,
these entities, I'll call them, have been at war for 77 years, right? But by starting from that position, you could tell where a thing's going to go by where it starts from. And so when you start from the position of, hey, I'm going to endorse the Democratic nominee no matter who it is, okay, well, that is a good indicator of where you're going to end up, right? Donald Trump didn't say that in 2016. He said, I'll endorse the Republican nominee if it's not me, if I'm treated fairly, right? That's that's a revolutionary. That's more of a revolutionary attitude than Bernie's. And so when you open this conversation by repeating talking points that the IDF itself and the Israeli paper of record itself have now debunked, right? It's not us debunking them, it's them debunking them. That is a good indicator of where you're going to end up. Bernie is like Marianne Williamson. When you remember when Marianne got dragged by that TikToker because she said, yeah, what's happening in Gaza is terrible, but Israel's not an occupying power. And then when Breonna Joy Gray pressed her on, well, hey, what is the legitimacy of an apartheid state that controls immigration so that Jews are never outnumbered? She says, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. That's the same as Bernie. He's not going to go there. He's not going to go there, which is a good indication of where you're going to end up.
It's a legal term.
Right.
And hey, this is why, although we feel that as activists in this space who've been pushing to change the narrative for a long time now, not as long as some, yeah, I think you should take a victory lap when a guy like Mamdani is leading with Jews in a place like New York City. Yes. Why won't we endorse or encourage people to get involved in his campaign? Because, yeah, man, he does give signals of being a Bernie. Shama's not wrong. Shama's not wrong. No. You want to see a revolutionary? Yeah, they talk like Shama. Motherfucker, if I win, I'm taking your house.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Taking your house. You better put your shoes in a safe deposit box. I might take those too.
Oh, of course.
When you got a guy like Mamdani who's going, yeah, I want to meet with the business community. Yeah, man, of course, because you can't beat those people that way.
No.
Now, really, the moral question with someone like Mamdani, if you, as I am, are a voter who can actually vote in that election, is, hey, man, are you going to withhold your vote even though any way you slice it, the guy can probably freeze the rent. He's obviously very, very unlikely to cooperate in any police persecution of protesters. Well, do you not vote for that on the basis of a revolution that is not even a glimmer in anyone's eye, really, at this point? I don't think so. So I will vote for him, but with open eyes, and I'll always on the show be very clear what we think. Yeah, he's a Democrat. In the end, when somebody's running as a Democrat, that comes with everything that means. And most of what that means is not good. Believe me, not good.
Of course. And to me, it's a matter of the IHRA definition. Like even on Israel-related matters, in terms of protests, in terms of the IHRA, those are big differences between Mamdani,
Both
pardon me,
Cuomo
and
and Adams are
Yeah.
running on embracing that definition.
Yeah, certainly. And the fact that Betar is saying they're going to leave town if he wins, I mean, come on, sold right there. I mean, that's beginning and end. That case closed. Now, in terms of all this other stuff, he posed in a photo with Richie Torres, a couple weeks ago. That's terrible. It's terrible in two ways. Number one, it's a fuck you to your base who hates Richie Torres, and Richie Torres certainly hates them back. But I think more importantly, and this goes to what Shama talks about, when you pose for a photo with Richie Torres, and to be clear, it wasn't one-on-one, but they were in a group, right? To publicly associate with Richie Torres and to pose for a friendly photo with him is to signal to him that you want something from him.
Right.
And when you signal...
And you're willing to work with him.
Exactly. When you signal to these people that you want something from them, you're giving them power over you because now they have something that you want.
Right.
Shama never did it that way. She never gave them any power over her because she never signaled to them that she wanted anything from them. She wouldn't even take their phone call. She said, when I would win, my opponent didn't call me to congratulate me. No, I never spoke to them at all, besides maybe on a debate stage or something. So he's signaling to the establishment that he wants something from them, which is a very bad thing, because now you're signaling that you want something from them. You're giving them power over you. So there's a lot to be upset about with some of the recent decisions that he's made. There's also, I think, good reason to want to strike fear into the hearts of these Betar thugs who terrorize Palestinian protesters with beepers, literally making violent threats about them.
They did that to Norm.
They did that to Norm. They did it to, I forget the woman's name. I'm so sorry. She was on Nick's Roundtable show last night, but prominent Palestinian activist. They've harassed her. Like, if these people are going to stand down under Mamdani, then I think he's worth voting for, despite all of this other stuff. But
That's
obviously,
how I feel. That's why I'm going to do it.
Exactly. But Bernie, not so much. And just the balls to fucking lecture him. When he won doing exactly what you promised you do and didn't do.
He won where you failed.
He did what you thought. He did what you said you were going to do and didn't do.
Jews.
Right.
So where the fuck do you get off telling them how to talk to Jews?
Yeah,
maybe
right.
you
Exactly.
need to learn how to talk to Jews.
Yeah, maybe you learn. Yeah, exactly.
It's not 1938 anymore, Bernie.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. All right. Sir Bikes a Lot Day. Oh, sorry. Wait a minute. Oh, we got some more super chats came in the time being. Okay. All right. Dalton, thanks for the $1 super sticker. Appreciate that. Michael Castillo says, guys, what do you think of the movie What's Eating Gilbert Grape? I like Leo as Arnie and Howard Hughes. I'm with Russell. I'll try to be the first to sign. I never saw What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Honestly.
Okay. It's funny you say this, man. I forget that he's a playwright, the guy who wrote that, and he had a fairly decent career. I forget his name now. I had a viscerally negative reaction to that movie because I hated the whole tone of the writing so much. Years later, without even knowing that it was the same writer, one of the theaters I owned, they produced 3 of his one acts, and I had that same exact feeling. And then I found out later, oh shit, that makes sense. Like I want to crawl out of my skin the same way that I did when
Peter
I saw
Hedges.
Gilded Grape.
That's who wrote the screenplay.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
I fucking hate that writer. And it's not, I can't tell you, I can't quite put my finger on what it is. There's just something about his whole thing that just makes me want to throw up.
Interesting.
I just hate the whole tone of his work.
Yeah, I never saw it. I never saw What's Eating Gilbert Grape. My favorite movie of its decade was The Wolf of Wall Street, though, and
our
Leo
special
was-
guest Sunday, Peter Edges.
Yeah. Wolf of Wall Street was amazing, and he deserved the Oscar for that performance. I mean, can't take that away from him. Milton Crow, even though Star Trek depicts a post-scarcity society, its protagonist, anarchic communist nation, is surrounded by corrupt capitalist rival states with the same unlimited resources. Javier, thanks for the $1.99. Nothing, just happy to be here. Well, happy to have you here, Javier. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir Bikes-A-Lot Day says, now I understand why John Titor, the time traveler from 2036, said the world doesn't like Americans in the future. We didn't stop the genocide. Dominic Morrow, NFL Bulletin, Elon Musk to buy the Washington Commanders, plans to change the name to the Washington Windmills. Haha, good one, yes. Artie Blarty Fart Blast, thanks for the $2.99. Our revolution with Zionist talking points, WTF, that's right. Eric Suarez, Bernie is trying to save the soft power, blaming Netanyahu. His plan is to complete the genocide, remove Netanyahu, and tell us just to move on. Yeah, well, he'll only ever criticize Netanyahu.
Right.
Yeah, never the underpinnings of that ideology. According to Kurt Metzger, DiCaprio's girlfriends are beards that sign contracts until they turn 25. Interesting. Hey, by the way, you should all go check out the Derp with Kurt. He launched his new podcast over the weekend. Funny stuff. Hamhawk, just when I'm ready for the killer asteroid, you go and show me a good story. Makes me think we might be worth saving. Cheers. Well, thank you, Hamhawk. Professor Brownell, welcome to Hotel Caprifornia Katingia, Tel Aviv. Brunch and freak-offs included. Entertainment, the best of Israel's stand-up scene.
It's going to be environmentally friendly baby oil.
That's right, yes. Yes, hemp seed baby oil. If Bernie had a podcast, he'd yell out cowardice at the close. Ah, good one. Yes. Capitulation. No, you know what he'd yell out? Never mind. Never mind.
To my good friends.
To my good friends, never mind. It's Vito. Lastly, the old St. Louis courthouse was where the Dred and Harriet Scott hearings. Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Oh,
all
that's
right.
interesting. So
Cancer
maybe we
sucks,
should
you
shoot
guys.
a little thing though.
Yeah, well, we also are gonna be shooting B-roll around town for the movie, so it'd be good to know the historic sites because that'll be useful.
good.
Thank you for that. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Angry husbands have the right to defend themselves from wives who are late with dinner. Bernie Sanders. Yes, thank you. Yes. My good friend Israel has the right to defend the genocide. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. Appreciate that very much. All right, folks. Well, that is our show today. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you all. Please smash that like button on the way out, that subscribe button on YouTube, and that follow button over on Rumble. Members will be getting their notifications shortly regarding the Film Club, which starts in a little over 4 hours. So if you are not a member, please sign up so you could join us later. Members are what fuel the show. So patreon.com/do dissidents to sign up, and then expect to hear from us shortly after signing up, because we will see all of you later at 7:30 p.m. tonight for the Film Club, and we will see everybody else at 7 p.m. on Sunday. That'll be August 3rd. Appreciate you all very much for spending your afternoon with us. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks for being here. Until we see you again, be it tonight or Sunday night, be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.